YouTube? Captain Mac here, and welcome to the full flight tutorial for the MilViz King Air 350i. Now, many of you already know I am a huge King Air fan. I love these airplanes. This thing right here, this 350, man, this thing is the Formula One of turboprop airplanes. It is sleek, it is fast, it is maneuverable. This plane is a thing of beauty, and I absolutely love the King Air. I love the 200, I love the 350. They're just gorgeous airplanes, and it would be a dream come true to fly one in the real world one day, because these things are something else. Now, we are going to fly this beauty from Phoenix up to Sedona. Why that route? Well, I love flying out of Phoenix, you all know that, and why wouldn't you want to fly into Sedona? Tiny little runway, sitting on a plateau, beautiful scenery from Orbix. Why not? Should be a load of fun. Now, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to tell you right now the introduction to this aircraft, to this tutorial, our introduction portion, which we're in right now. This is going to take a while. Alright? Now, if you want to skip ahead, I've set chapters in the video, but before you do, please note, there will be ranting. Oh, there will be ranting. Now, King Air, or not King Air, MilViz initially started the release of this aircraft in beta in 2015. That's right, you heard me, 2015. I bought this aircraft in the beta in 2015. I don't even know if they released it in beta sooner than that. That's when I bought it. Alright, and here we are in 2020, 5 years after I bought the beta, and they finally released it. And let me tell you, there's some problems here, folks. There's some problems. Alright? There are definitely some problems here. So, let me talk about my biggest issue of all with this aircraft. And this is going to be the rant that's going to probably end all rants. I don't know. Maybe I'll be nice and calm about it. Okay? This is a study level aircraft, is it not? That's what MilViz touts it as, correct? MilViz says that this thing is accurate. It's an accurate simulation of the King Air 350. Okay. Well, I'm not a King Air 350 pilot, and most of you probably aren't either. You'd like to learn as much as you can about the aircraft. Maybe you're a fan of King Airs like I am, and you think to yourself, man, I may never get to fly one in the real world, but if this thing is in depth as it says, then I'm going to get as close as I can. And I'm all for that. Let me ask you this. Now, you guys know I try not to bash on developers. Developing something like this is no easy process. Do I think it's ridiculous it took 5 years? You bet I do. I think that's absolutely freaking ridiculous, especially since, in my opinion, this aircraft isn't done yet. But, putting that aside for the moment, understanding, Captain Mac understands, developing stuff like this, not easy. The 3D modeling, the coding, it's huge to be able to put together an aircraft like this, and as in-depth as they did with this thing, I'm impressed with that. I still think 5 years is too long, but that's not my biggest problem here. Let me tell you what my biggest problem is. There's no frickin' manual for this thing. You think I'm joking? You say to yourself, no, Captain Mac, it comes with a manual. You know what? No, it doesn't. That's not a manual. Are you out of your stinking mind? This is not a manual. It's got a few pages of introduction, a few pages of basic information on the aircraft, and then a bunch of checklists. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. It also has the V-speed charts in it. That's it. That's not a manual. It doesn't explain anything to you. It took me 2 days. 2 frickin' days to figure out how to integrate my charts. 2 days. And you know what's really stupid? It was the simplest thing in the world once I figured it out. You gotta be freaking kidding me. You're gonna put out an aircraft that's this complex, this detailed, you're gonna call it study level, and you're gonna release a manual that's 90% checklist. And I'm all for the checklists. You need them, okay? But it's 90% checklist, and there's no information on how to operate this aircraft. There's no tutorial, nothing like that. Now, I know somebody from MilViz is going to say to me, listen, first of all, up yours for running your mouth about it. I understand that. Listen, I got nothing against you guys. You do some beautiful work, okay? But second of all, you're going to probably say to me, well, we did some tutorials on how to start this aircraft on our website. Yeah, I saw them. Not great. Not horrible. They do teach you how to do it. They don't teach you anything about the aircraft. Now, I'm going to be fair. I'm not going to teach you a whole lot about the aircraft today either. This is a full flight tutorial. I'm going to teach you how to start it. I'm going to teach you the basics of what you need to know to get this bird going, get her in the air, and get her back on the ground and shut it down. That's what a full flight tutorial is. But I'm not an expert on the King Air anyway. I'm not the guy to tell you everything about this aircraft. But those of you who put this thing together, you spent 5 years working on it. You got to know this thing as well as any pilot knows it, or as well as any mechanic knows it even. And a manual with a tutorial flight in it, like every good developer does. Okay? PMDG is a great example. You get 1, 2, 3, sometimes 3 tutorial flights that walk you through the process of everything that's needed to do to start up the aircraft, and it explains why you're doing it and what it does. That doesn't exist for this. I have to bumble and fumble and stumble my way around this aircraft for 2 days. 2 days to even come close to figuring it out. And I'm nowhere near figuring it out. I'm nowhere near figuring it out. There's almost no information in this manual at all. And I think that's trash. I think it's garbage. Absolute garbage. That you're going to put this aircraft out with this level of detail, which I think is fantastic, and you're not going to provide an even tolerably decent manual with it. Not even close. You threw a little bit of information in there, a couple of pretty pictures, some takeoff charts, and a bunch of checklists, and you said, okay, we're done. We're wiping our hands clean of this thing. No frickin' way. No way. And it's unbelievable. And I'll be ranting more as we go along with this, because I got to tell you guys, there are issues that are just, they just befuddle me. It blows my mind. All right. So there's my primary issue. If you're with MilViz, I'm not bad mouthing you as a company. I'm not bad mouthing you as developers. You guys do an amazing job, and this aircraft is pretty darn amazing. There are things that it lacks. There are a few issues. And I'll rant a little about those. But overall, you guys made a beautiful product here, and I love it. I'm impressed with it. I think it's great. But boy, did you come up short on the manual. I got to tell you, you came up short something fierce. And honestly, if I were you, I would be embarrassed about what you put out as a manual on this. Especially after 5 years, at least 5 years of development, you should have a manual that's 300, 400, 500 pages long. I didn't look, but I'll bet the real manual for this aircraft is a couple thousand pages, right? Now, you don't need to do that, but when I buy an aircraft from PMDG, for example, I've got 2 FCOMs in there that are 1,000 pages each. I've got at least 1 tutorial in there that's probably anywhere from 80 to 150 pages. I mean, I've got information on top of information. I don't have any of that with this aircraft. I got no information at all. There's no cruise information on it. You only have your V-speeds in here, and the V-speed chart. That's it. And then you got checklists. You got no information. You don't even have information on how to use the tools inside the aircraft. Okay? That's not cutting it. Now, I have one more rant. Actually, no, I'll get to it here in a little bit. I'll get to it in a little bit, because I think that's long enough for an introduction. All right? All right, before we jump in the aircraft, we're going to need to talk about a couple of tools here. And we're going to talk about them separately. I just threw them both up here to introduce this portion of the tutorial. Let's get this one out of the way for the moment. Let's look at the add-on management system. All right? Let me just start out by saying, honestly, don't bother with this thing. Really, just don't bother. There's a couple things on here that can be useful for you, but as far as load goes, it's a lot easier to just load within the default sim fuel and payload manager than it is to use this, because when you use this, So you'll say anything you do in this, you have to press save as defaults or it doesn't take, right? So my default fuel is 2500 in the main and 1000 in the auxiliary. My default cargo is 100 and 100, and I've got a default, you know, you can't change these anyway. All right, so that's default. So if I want to change it, I have to open this, I have to change it, save it as defaults, and then restart my sim. Just don't even bother, you guys. Don't even mess with it. All right. Moving over though, let's look at options real quick. There are a couple things that are useful here in the options menu. Cold and dark. I have it set to cold and dark. I like it that way. I don't even know what that means. I think the quote-unquote manual might briefly touch on it for a second, but there's a manual for this that's separate from the manual for the aircraft. One thing that's driving me nuts is the sounds didn't change at all. The engines are crazy loud on this thing, and I may even have to tune down the sound on my P3D a little bit, just to, you know, so you can hear me talk over the engines, because they are loud. All right. You could put it to sync with simulator, but I think if I do that and save as default, I'll probably have to restart it. I don't know, we'll find out. But anyway, and then the engine state, I don't know if it's just maybe I'm not that good at the startup procedure or something, but the right engine is pretty much always screwed almost every time I come in here. So restoring those is helpful. It's basically maintenance on the engines. If you're going to fly this aircraft regularly, you need to make it a habit to open this thing prior to loading your aircraft and just make sure your engines are in good health. All right. As far as visuals go, you can turn on, off the pilots, chocks, all that stuff. Now, in the background, you see the aircraft. You see I've got all these on. Well, you also have to turn them on and off within the sim. All right. You can see the pilots in there. I'll show you guys how to do that in a little bit. And then the controls, don't waste your time. Just don't waste your time. All right, I tried every combination on here you could think of, especially with the flight controls and the axis calibration, which is not where you're supposed to set your controls. It's just supposed to calibrate them. I tried enable hardware mapping. I tried everything, and when it was all said and done, and this is one of my chief complaints about this aircraft, you know how hard it was to map my throttles and my fuel controls and my propeller controls for this aircraft. I spent over 2 hours trying to do it, and when I was done, the best I could do with every combination I tried between FSUI, PC, default controls using this system, the best I could do is I could get one throttle on my throttle quadrant to work, to run both the throttles in the aircraft. I could get one of the levers on my yoke to work both of the propeller controls simultaneously, and then I could get two of the levers on my throttle quadrant to work the fuel individually. That took me 2.5 hours to get it, trying every combination I could think of, from reversing controls to mapping them in here, mapping them default. My control for the throttles, okay, is mapped through P3D default controls. All right, I've got the one lever is mapped for throttle 1 reverse. Okay, this is how I got it to work. It's mapped for throttle 1 reverse. It's mapped in FSUI PC for both throttles reverse. And then I did axis calibration on here, which, by the way, not very freaking intuitive. You pick what you want to pick. So I picked power levers. I'm not going to go through because I don't want to risk changing anything. You pick your tool, and then you got to pick the axis. Well, do you know the name of every axis on each of your freaking things? No, you don't. All right, listen, this thing was just trouble. It was absolute trouble. The only things I got use of out of here when it was all said and done was I chose my visuals and my engines, restoring my engines. That's it. Okay, anything else in here, in my opinion, waste of time. This thing is confusing and it's not helpful. It's not useful, in my opinion. The only really useful thing is this right here. And if you're big on what is and isn't seen in the sim than this here. As far as I'm concerned, you can get rid of the rest of this because it's not helping me at all. Now maybe I missed something. Maybe I just don't understand it. Okay, I did see where it said that you shouldn't be mapping controls through this. That wasn't my original try. It wasn't. But I tried that too. It's got an option right there, enable hardware map. It just absolute ridiculous. Okay, but do open it up, check your visuals, see what you want, and then make sure your engines before each flight. You can hit the restore, save as defaults, and then close it out, and you're done. Now let's talk about the charts manager. Oh my word. Let me tell you something, okay? It took me just this morning, it took me 3 hours to get charts squared away, okay? Now, after a lot of searching all over the friggin' internet, everywhere I could find, I found a forum post that said that if you don't have a chart subscription, your aircraft through this charts manager will be compatible with PDF charts. And I know some of you are getting excited right now. You're like, sweet, that means I don't have to worry about it. Wrong. Okay, first of all, it says it'll be compatible with PDF charts. It is not compatible with PDF. It won't even take a PDF. Okay, let me explain to you how this works. You add an airport using an ICAO code. Now CKLT may or may not be an airport, and TKOF may or may not be an airport. I put those in there to try and put a checklist, alright, and my takeoff table's in there, right? Okay, and you're probably thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. Well, I didn't want to have the PDF up, right? I didn't know there is a built-in checklist in the aircraft. I finally found it, and then it took me forever to figure out how to work it. That's another rant later on. Okay, but I said, okay, well, I'm going to load them in. I'm flying from Phoenix up to Sedona. Let's go ahead and let's load in some diagrams. So I loaded the airport info diagram. There it is right there. That is not a PDF file. It's not. It's a JPEG because it doesn't take PDF files. See, let me show you. Add new diagram. Maybe. There we go. Okay, see images, PNG or JPG, right? Oh, I just changed that to PDF. No, you won't. That's the only option available. If you were to it doesn't even matter. You can't change it. That's all you get. It's either PNGs or JPEGs. Now I use the snipping tool and I cut these out and then I put them in here. Okay, sounds great. They don't show up in the aircraft. They don't show up. They're not in there. I can't find them. Now maybe they're in there somewhere, but I can't find them. Okay, so A, it doesn't take PDFs. So that's a load of crap right there. Okay, don't say it's going to take PDFs and then it doesn't. B, even though it's not that hard to put together a JPEG, all right, I've got them. You can see I've got them all saved. I have no idea how to track them down in there. No idea whatsoever. You know why? Because there's no manual for the aircraft. Imagine that. Okay, it took me forever. You can link your NAVIGRAPH to this, and it's easy to do once you know how. But it took me forever to figure it out, and you're going to find out why it took me so long here in a little bit. So, for those of you who don't have a NAVIGRAPH subscription, then you've seen either the pictures or the video that said, oh yeah, you know, you see the integrated chart and all that, and you're thinking that's fantastic. Don't get too excited. That's number one about charts. Don't get too excited, because as far as I can tell, this doesn't work. Now, again, I'm not trying to bash on these guys. I know that it is no easy thing to put this aircraft together, to integrate things like this and all that. That is not some easy task, and it is highly likely that I missed something somewhere. But again, if you'd have put together a proper manual, I wouldn't have missed it. And don't tell me go to your forums. I've been trying to log into your forums for 2 days, and my login information doesn't work. So I try to contact you guys to get my login information squared away, and it requires me to log into the forums to contact you. So don't even bother. Alright, I'm sure there's an email address. I didn't bother looking. I got frustrated. I really did. I got frustrated. So that's it. I'm done messing with that. So I'm sure there's a way to make this work, but I don't know what it is, guys. And I don't know where you find the information on how to make this work. So keep that in mind when it comes to your charts here. This isn't, as far as I can tell, this doesn't work the way they say. Alright, if somebody knows otherwise, please put down in the comments. Maybe send me an email. You can go to the About tab on my channel, find my email address, shoot me an email and explain to me how that's done, and I will gladly put together a short video on how to make that work properly, and it'll just be a follow-up to this, and that way people can go in there and check it out. All right? Okay, enough about our two managers. All right, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of why we're here, how to fly this thing, how to start it up. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Let me just start by saying, because I've been doing a lot of kind of foul talking here, so I want to backtrack just a little bit and say, MilViz, you rendered a beautiful flight deck here. I mean, it looks amazing. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the functionality, as far as I can tell, I haven't found anything that's not working the way I expected it to. So I'm really impressed with the interior of this aircraft, and so far as I can tell now, I've never flown a King Air in the real world, but the flight dynamics seem to be really, really impressive. So kudos to you, bravo for, and the exterior modeling is just as gorgeous. So just so we're clear on that, beautiful job on the modeling, beautiful job on the simulation of the aircraft. There are a lot of positives about this thing, and you know, I think, man, I tell you what, just putting out a manual would make a huge difference for this thing, a huge difference. I'm hoping that I can cover enough in this tutorial that folks will say, you know what, I think I can fly this. I think I've got enough of the information I need. But for those who really want study level, it ain't here right now, guys, not without that manual. All right, enough talk about that. Let's jump up here real quick, grab our little vehicle tab, and let's go to our fuel and payload. All right, this is where I'm going to adjust my fuel and payload. That's just the way it's going to be. We're not going to need a whole lot of fuel. We're going to put these at 50%. Left and right auxiliary both at 50%. Actually, yeah, I'm going to put them at 50%. And then I'm going to put these at 75. It's still way more than enough fuel. We're not flying very far, but because it's a tutorial, we're going to be yapping for a while, and we're going to burn some fuel while we're yapping. 75. That's one thing that's always, you know, you got left auxiliary left, right auxiliary right, so pay attention to that. So left and right 75, and then the auxiliaries at 50. That's what I wanted right there. So 50, 75, 50, 75. I'm not going to change. I'm going to leave the packs in there and all that stuff. I'm going to leave the baggage, and I think we're good on that. Now, pay attention here, because you're going to need this. So your gross weight, 13,156 pounds. And I'm going to try and find a spot to write that down somewhere real quick. I should have had that ready to go. The reason you're going to want to write this down, guys, what is it, 13,156? You're going to need this for your V speeds, all right? You're going to need this number for your V speeds. And you'll see why here in a little bit. So let's hit OK. All right. Not sure why it jumped back outside, but inside we go. Okay. All right. So we've gotten that taken care of. Last thing I want to show you here before we actually get into the fun stuff here. If you go to Vehicle Instrument Panel, this is where you can pop up those your panels, FMS, left PFD, all that. You can pop them up here, or you can pop them up by clicking on them when you see the little hand. And then if you go to add-ons, King Air 350i, you can show hide pilot, set remove chocks, set remove pitot covers, engine covers, and GPU. That's where you got to go to make that happen. So just because you selected it in that manager doesn't mean it automatically shows up. If for some reason it does, this is how you remove them. All right, fair enough. Now we are going to start with our pre-flight inspection here. And there are lots of things we're going to do, and then there's a whole ton of things that we're not even going to bother with, and you're going to find out here in a second. So first things first, baggage is secure. Aft and forward exit signs are on. It says on, test, and then check illuminated. I can't find these for the life of me. The only thing that comes close is you got some signs up here. You got your master panel lights, entry lights, and so on. I assumed it was entry lights. The entire cabin of the aircraft is modeled, so I made my way back there using Chase Plane, which, by the way, if you don't have Chase Plane or Easy Dock, although I prefer Chase Plane, and the ability to map individual cameras to specific buttons, the startup procedure for this aircraft is going to be very difficult for you. So I highly recommend that you get an add-on camera that allows you to specifically set cameras and lock them to buttons. For example, this is camera 1 for me. Camera 2 takes me way back here. Camera 3 gives me a nice overview, which we'll use. 4 goes to the overhead. 5 is up front here. That's to check our warning lights and to look at our MFD. 6 is to check the warning lights nice and close, because you can't read the ones that are turned off, right? You can read them when they're turned on, but I had to find certain ones that were turned off. 7 is going to be our fuel panel over here. 8 is going to be, we're going to be busy down here, and we're going to be busy over here, and we're going to be busy right here. Okay, so that's all of my internal cameras on this aircraft, and those are all on my number pad 1 through 9 and the slash key. Alright, so if you really need that to be the most effective at setting up or starting up this aircraft. Okay, enough talk about that. I couldn't find the exit signs specifically, so I gave up on it. Emergency exits secure and unlocked. I don't know what secure and unlocked means. Control locks removed. Those are automatically removed. They're not in here. Parking brake needs to be set. That's this guy down here. Alright. And then landing gear down, which it is. Otherwise we'd be looking at the ground much differently right now. Condition levers and the fuel cutoff. That's these two over here. Both need to be 0. And then your elevator trim needs to be 2 units nose up. Now, here's your elevator trim. You want to be basically in this, it's at 0, right? So I've mapped a control to it, and right now I'm doing nose up trim, and you see that it's trimming nose down. For some reason, before you start the aircraft, it does not like that button. So just put your mouse on there and just scroll it. And I don't know what it means by 2 units nose up, right? What's a unit? Is that 1 and then 2? Because if so, that doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to me to just put it into the green and white band here, which would be within the takeoff position. So that's what I do with it. Alright, rudder trim and aileron trim, these two down here, both at 0. So that one's at 0, and that one's at 0, and that's where we want them to be. And then battery bus normal is where these views really start to come in handy. So battery bus is this guy here. Okay, left click it down is off, left click it back up is on. Voltmeter into the battery position. This is up top. Again, having these camera views helps. Alright, so voltmeter, if you have to right click and hold to go to the battery position, it needs to be 23 volts minimum, and it looks like we're just over that. Now we're going to hop down all the way back down here, and we're going to do this a lot, and the main battery is going to come on. That's this one right here. Click it on. Landing gear indicators should be illuminated. That's these right here. Fuel quantity needs to be checked. We're going to do this more than once, which I find a little strange, but okay. So there's just shy of 1,000 in each, and then if you right click, it's your auxiliary tanks. Okay, and you can see there's about 200, 300 and change, it looks like, which doesn't seem to line up with what we loaded, does it? But it is what it is. We're going to stick with that for now. Then we're going to hop back up top, and we're going to put the voltmeter on TPL fed, which it's on right now, and that should be 22 volts minimum. It is. And then go to left and right gen should both be 0 volts. There we go, both at 0. And then center should be 23 volts minimum. There it is. And then external power should be 0, which it is. So we'll just leave that there for the moment. We're going to hop all the way back down here to Gen Ties, and you're going to left click it to, it's going to click up and then back for manual close. And you see the lights came on, and you can hear some noise. What is it? It sounds like the engines are running. Why on earth would the engines be running? That's weird. I have no idea why it's doing that. Flaps need to be down there, or up, I mean, they're over here. And then battery goes back off. Real quick, I just want to check. It sounds like, yep, for some reason, now that's the first time it's done that to me. But for some reason the environmental control being on auto just went bonkers. Okay, back over here, let's turn the battery back off. Alright, and that takes care of our pre-flight inspection. Now, I told you there was a bunch of things that we were not going to do, and they're all part of that pre-flight inspection, and it's all the external walk around. There's 2 reasons we're not doing that. Number 1, you can't actually really adjust anything on the outside of the aircraft. You know, part of the exterior walk around on a prop driven aircraft, I don't know why everything's just kind of bouncy. Anyway, is to actually physically move the props, and you're going to check them for damage and stuff like that. Well, you can't do that when you're walking outside the aircraft. Number two, it's P3D. Now, you can turn on service-based failures for certain aircraft and things like that, but it's still limited in how much you can do. About the only thing you can do as far as failures or damage with this particular aircraft is the engines will get worn out and damaged over time, and so you need to go into that tool and make sure that the engines are basically refreshed or done the maintenance. So we're not doing the exterior walk around, but it's like 8 or 10 pages or something like that. I don't even know. I put it away somewhere. It was just a ton of pages of walk around. Takes up a huge portion of the quote-unquote manual. Yeah. Okay, so don't bother with the exterior walk around. Now, if you want to take a look outside and you've got a camera where you can move around, by all means, go for it. If you want to add to your realism or depth, you would definitely do an exterior walk around, and you can spend a lot of time doing that. We're not going to be doing it on here. It took us 10 minutes just to do the pre-flight inspection. So we're going to move on to the before engine start, which is going to take a little bit longer because we've got 2 pages of checklists here. A lot of information. All right, so let's dig in. Weight, center of gravity, performance, and V speeds checked. Well, we can't check our well, we could check our V speeds, but we're not going to, and we'll do that when the time comes, and there's a reason for that. Doors closed and locked. We can just hop outside. We can see that the main door is closed over there. It's going to automatically be locked. Okay. Baggage is loaded. Passenger briefing is complete. Cabin equipment is positioned. Parking brake is set. Control locks are removed. Oxygen system pre-flight. It says confirm complete. I couldn't figure this out to save my life. The only thing I find that comes close to oxygen in here, actually, you know what? I think I do know what it is. I think it's talking about these guys. Okay, so it took a while to find this, but let me show you here. Okay, go back just a little more. See how it says oxygen pull on system ready and then passenger manual dropout. Well, I got a warning later on. I knew these were here, but I thought they had to stay down, right? But you actually have to have both of them up. Otherwise you get a warning on your warnings panel. Okay, so there we go. That has to be our oxygen system pre-flight confirmed complete. If it's not, then I don't know what to do. ELT switch needs to be armed. This one can be a little tricky. It's actually right here behind or to the left side of the pilot. So it's currently in the arm position. If you left click it, it goes on and the little light comes on, and that means it's transmitting. So we don't want our ELT transmitting right now. We just want it armed. Fuel panel needs to be checked. That's this guy right here, and we already checked it, but we got to go through a couple of things here to do the check it's asking for now. First of all, standby pumps need to be off. That's this one and this one, and they are off. That's on, that's off. It doesn't go all the way down. It does, but it doesn't look like it from this view, right? Crossfeed needs to be off. In the middle is off. So that's crossfeed to the left, that's crossfeed to the right, and the middle is off. Auxiliary transfer switches need to be in auto, right? So down is auto, up is override. And then we want to check that all these circuit breakers are in. None of these circuit breakers move. I hate how this the whole thing starts tearing over here when I come down to this view. Alright, none of these circuit breakers down here are movable, at least not as far as I could tell. There is one I found that is movable, but it's not on this panel. And that takes care of our fuel panel, and now we move to the pilot's instrument panel and sub panel, and that's this guy down here. So that's both these two sides, our panel and sub panel. And we're going to start with the ISIS power. We're going to turn that on. That's this switch over here. Left click and she's on. Battery bus we want to confirm is normal. Remember, up is normal, down is off. Engine anti-ice needs to be on, and main. So left click to put them on, and then main is down. So that's standby, that's main. So we want both of those switches down. And if you set it up for the cold and dark, that's how they should be anyway. Landing gear relay circuit breaker needs to be in. This is the circuit breaker I found that moves. It's this guy here. So if you left click it, that's out. left click it again, that's in, that's where you want it to be. Landing gear control, this guy is down. And then we move to our console here. Power levers, these two need to be in idle. Alright. Prop levers need to go full forward. And they both go at the same time because I have to use a single controller for them. Same thing with the throttles. I have to use a single controller for them. Very frustrating. And if you want to lower them, like see it says it's at 67. Even though I've completely, there's 65. And I have to move sideways to move these up and down. It's really weird. See, that says 45. So I guess, but that's beta and reverse. So I guess that's where they sit. But I can only use one lever for the two of them. And if I want to move them individually, if you try to move up and down, click your mouse and hold, move up and down, it doesn't work. You got to move side to side. Now, I think the fact that I have to move, watch my mouse. I have to move my mouse sideways to move it. If I move up and down, it just kind of, yeah, see, it's depending on which angle it's going sideways. Okay, I think that because of that, I know this sounds weird, but because of that, I think that's why I can't map that control properly. Something they put in there, because with these I move them up and down. Now I don't know why I can't map these ones. Makes no sense to me. But there you have it. And then these ones I can move individually with my levers. So anyway, condition levers, fuel cutoff, that's these two here. Oxygen controls set. That's what I thought was these two, right? So I set them, so I don't know what that other checklist item is. Landing gear, alternate extension handle stowed. That's the red handle down here, and it's stowed. Just leave it alone. Okay, now to our revisionary switch panel. This one requires this view here. This is our revisionary switch panel, this guy right here. Okay, so DG free norm needs to be on norm. These are all in the position they're supposed to be in, but if you want, you can left and right click them to figure it out. Some of them are left click only. That's left click only. This one's left and right, and that's just a plus minus, right? Same thing with these here. Okay, so DG free norm is in the normal position. Slew is centered, which it is. ATC select is on standby. That's the middle, which it is. Pilot display on normal. Okay, and if you mess with this, basically what it does, it just moves your PFD around. That's all. And then AHRS is on normal. It's the next one over. ADC is on normal. The tune is on normal, and RMT tune is on normal as well, which is this one here. All right, and then that slew switch would be centered as well, and then the DG free over here on normal. All right. And then last but not least, the ground communications or ground comm, this one here, is not illuminated or extinguished. When it's on, the light is quite bright, so you know it's on. Now we move over to the Copilot subpanel. Whoop. And window defog needs to be off. That's this one. So that's on, that's off. I won't do that with every switch, but with a lot of them I will. Just because it's hard to tell. It looks like it's straight out, so it looks like it's a 3-position switch instead of a 2, right? ECS mode needs to be off. So environmental control system is what ECS is, and we had it on auto. We've got it off now, so we're good. Cabin blower needs to be on auto. So here's the cabin, right, and then here's the cockpit, and here's the blower. Auto's all the way down. Environmental bleed air as required. That's these two here. We're going to leave them off for the moment. We're not going to, it says electric heat is required. Well, I'm not going to turn it over to electric heat because it's off anyway. And then we have right panel circuit breakers, and you'll get a little, sometimes you get a little tearing here, but none of these do anything. But here's a fun one for you. Pilot static air source. I looked around for this thing forever, and I finally found it. It's right here. This is the pilot's alternate static air source, or pilot static air source, and it needs to be in the normal position, which it is. All right. And then overhead, you go to the interior master switch, this one here, and that needs to be off, which it is, and that's going to move us to a whole bunch of stuff with the power on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break away for a second because we're going to be really busy with that, and I want to make it a separate section. All right, so I'll see you back in just a second. Alright, so we're still in our before start checklist, but I've titled this section powering on the aircraft. And the reason is because now we're going to start bringing the power on the aircraft, doing all of our system checks and so on. And there's a lot going on, and there was a lot going on right before this, so I think it's better to separate the two, because you may not want to go through all that stuff before this. You may just say, hey, I just want to jump in and power it on. So this is where you're going to start for that. So first things first, we need to bring our battery on. Remember, that's this switch right down here. Okay, turn that on, and then we're going to test our annunciator lights. We're testing these lights and these lights. These are obviously working, and this is your switch right here. So you hold her down and you can see all our annunciator lights come on. Now in some aircraft, if you move the mouse away and let go, it still holds it. That doesn't work in this aircraft, which is, you're going to find, is going to cause us some problems later on. This is actually one of those things where I think MilViz, it'd be great if you did an update that allowed me to click and hold, and then if I move my mouse off of that button and let go, it continues to hold it down, because there are some things during the run up and stuff that you simply cannot do, because you can't hold the button and do the other thing at the same time. It's just not possible. Alright, but let's move on. So we've checked our annunciators. It wants us to check the fuel system again. So first of all, fuel, hold on, coughing in your face here. I know some of you actually, for some reason, you're like, oh, if I don't get a cough, it's not a Captain Mac video. You'll probably get some more of those. First things first, firewall fuel valves. We need to make sure they're open. I looked around for these, you know, here's our firewall, right? This whole thing down here is the firewall, and then all our fuel stuff is down over here, and I was like, where are they? Where are they? They're right here. Fuel, firewall valve push, right? So they need to be open. They are right now, and I'll show you. If you left click, it lifts up the little cover. Left click again and see how it says closed now. Okay, and then you could left click this one and do the fire extinguisher. We're not going to do that, but so click it again. Now you know it's open, right? And so it's the same for both sides. Standby pumps need to be off. We've already done this, but we'll check it again real quick. So standby pumps are both off, crossfeed is off, and then we test the fuel quantity. All right, you left click and you test. Why? I don't know. I have no idea what it does. You right click for auxiliary, remember that. You left click for test. Now again, if I could hold the button down and then look away, I might see something over here. I don't know, maybe I can get it from this view here. I didn't bother trying before. Yeah, I don't see anything popping up over here. So, and you could also pop this up, right, and then do it this way if you could even see anything. Look on here and see if you see anything. Yeah, I don't see anything happening on there. Now, one thing I dislike, I can right click and close window. It's either that or I have to re-click that same click spot. That's the only way to close those. You can't close it by just clicking on the little pop-up window again. Little kind of a frustration for me, but it's not that hard to work around. Okay, so fuel quantity check. So we'll just zip back over here again. We've got just shy of 1,000 pounds in each main tank, and then we've got just over 300 in the auxiliary tanks, which gives us about 2,600 pounds of fuel, which is more than enough for a flight up to Sedona. Okay, down here to the pilot sub panel again. Landing gear control lights test. Listen, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe. This is the landing gear control. You can't click on anything on it. It doesn't do anything. I can click on this, it doesn't do anything, right? I can click and hold, it doesn't do anything. I've tried it. Okay, the only thing I found that actually lights this up is not on the pilot sub panel. It's on the first officer's sub panel, and it is this guy right here, the landing gear warning test. Now I did figure out a way from this view I can see it. Now I'm going to left click and hold, and then I'm going to, with another finger, I'm going to click. This is using chase plane. If you're not using chase plane, I don't know what you do. So I'll left click and, or sorry, I'll right click and hold. Okay, and then I'm going to hold this, I'll let go for a second because that's annoying, and then I'll hold the mouse wheel as a button so that I can move and look at it. And you see how it's lit up? When I let off the right click, you can see the light went off. That has to be the landing gear control lights test, because this is the landing gear control and that's the light on it. So I don't think that belongs on the pilot sub panel portion of the checklist. Hydraulic fluid sensor. That is, I'm going to go down just a hair, this guy right here, and you see the light come on. Okay, so that's my test right there. Bam. And then beacon goes on. Beacon's this one here. I'm going to click it on, and then I'll just show you from this view so you can read it. So you can see that's the beacon light. Alright, now we go to the co-pilot subpanel, even though we've already been there. Cabin altitude warning needs to be tested. That is cabin altitude warning here. Left click to test. You see the light comes on there, and obviously you hear the beeper. Cabin differential warning test. That's going to be a right click here, and I don't know what that does. Let me try changing views while I'm holding that down to this one. So you see the light? There it is. That's your light right there. Okay, so you see it can be a little difficult to do some of these things just because you can't click and hold those buttons. So it is what it, well, you can click and hold them, but you got to be able to change views to do it, and sometimes that's kind of hard. Okay, moving on. Stall and landing gear warning test. That's the one right up here. So left click, that's stall warning. Nice buzzer. And then I'm sure there's an enunciator or a visual enunciator somewhere, and then landing gear warning. We already did that one. Fire detector and extinguisher. So the way this is going to work, it's these two here. Okay, so the detector is left click and the extinguisher is right click. And what we're going to do is we're going to click and hold, and then I'm going to change the view so that you can see it. Okay, and you can see it's on right there. Okay, and then if I let go, I can see the switch now, and that's why I start down there, because it's so hard to see that switch. Right click, there it is. So left click, right click, and then we'll do the other one. Left click, right click. There we go. You see all your lights are working, and you're good to go. All right. Okay, and so what that's going to do now, we've got the aircraft powered on. That's actually going to take us into our engine starting checklist. Okay, starting the engine in this aircraft is actually really a simple process. It's everything kind of that comes after it that really gets kind of crazy. But starting is really not that hard. So first things first, we're going to jump down here, and the gen ties need to go to man close or manual close. You're going to left click it. Bam, you see all those lights come on, right? Propeller area is clear, and we're going to jump right into the right ignition start. So what we're going to do, let's see, right ignition start and engine start on. Yeah. So these guys here, we're going to left click this to the on position. As soon as we do that, we're going to hop over here where we can see these lights. We're going to make sure that right ignition on is illuminated, and then right fuel pressure low, and I'll just hop over here because I think that one's on here. So all the right engine stuff is over here. I don't know. Right fuel pressure low it'll come on and then it'll extinguish or something like that. I can't see which one it is. Yeah, that's I have no idea which one it is. It's either one of those or it's one of these, and I can never remember. Oh yeah, right fuel pressure low. So that's got, sorry guys, there's so many lights and all bouncing around. So that light's got to go off, and the ignition light on there will be illuminated. Now, at the same time, when we reach 12% on our N1, which is right here, okay, minimum 12%, then we're going to take the right condition lever and we're going to move it to low idle. Alright, I'm telling you all this first because once we do it, we're going to go pretty quick. Then we're going to look back up here and we're going to observe our ITT, which is interstage turbine temperature. It's the temperature of the gases between the high and low pressure turbines. I had to look that up in case you're wondering. But we're going to watch the ITT and the N1. Basically, we're just making sure everything stays in the green. Okay, we'll check the right oil pressure, which will be over here. Okay, and then after N1 reaches 50%, we're going to turn the right ignition engine start off. Now, it's going to reach 50% really fast, so we'll probably be late doing it, but that's fine. And then the right condition lever will go to high idle, and then we'll move on from there. All right, so coming down here first, we're going to click this on. You'll hear the engine start spooling up. Okay, right ignition is supposed to be on. It is, and you can see that the low pressure is off, and we are surely already, yeah, we're at 21% on the N1, so we'll move that condition lever to low idle, and there she fires right up, right? So back in we go, and we're just observing our ITT and our N1, We're watching our fuel flow, pressure, all of that. Everything, we just really want it to stay in the green. The ITT does that to me every time. And then it's usually ends up staying yellow for a bit. It'll come back to yellow. I don't know. It's doesn't make any sense. I did turn the sound of the engines down. Hopefully that's low enough that you can hear me without any problems. So once that's done, we are going to check our lower warning panel here. And we want to make sure that right DC gen and left gen tie open are both extinguished. So right DC gen and left gen, I'm sorry, I missed the step that we do first. So we go to the generator, reset it, and then we're going to make sure those are extinguished. So all you do is left click it. Now we're going to make sure that those lights are extinguished. And they're not. You know why? I know why. What'd I forget? You're supposed to turn this off. Right? Right click it to turn it off. Now reset the gen, and that should do it right there. Hey, look at that. That took care of it. So don't forget to turn that cough in here. Hold on. Sorry about that. Don't forget to turn the ignition and engine start switch to the off position before you reset the generator, otherwise you're wasting your time. And then the right gen tie open light is extinguished as well, which it is, okay? And then it says battery charge, but I can't change the battery. I can't, if I click it, it's going to turn it off. Alright, so I don't know where the battery charge is. I looked around for it. I couldn't find anything that says battery charge. And I looked up top too. And, you know, I don't know. The only thing I can think is maybe you're clicking on this to see if it's charging. And it looks like it is. I mean, you can see right here it's coming up, right? I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of, guys. So that's got to be what it is. And then the process is going to be exactly the same for starting the left engine. We're going to go down to the left ignition and engine start switch. We're going to put it in the on position. We're going to observe that those lights go out here and that they go out up here, which I didn't even make a view for this, so I got to move. And the light goes out there. And then once that N1 is at 12%, which it surely is already, we're going to move our condition lever. You know what I forgot to do? This one's supposed to be in high idle now. I forgot that. My bad. I don't know why that one goes to high idle. Generator. Where does it say it at? I know it's on there. The other engine's starting right now. We're supposed to observe. You can see she's spooling up right there. I'm just looking on my checklist because I know it's on there somewhere. Yeah, right condition lever high idle right after we turn off the ignition and engine start. And I missed it because I forgot to turn off the engine and ignition start switch, which I'm not going to forget on this one. So we'll right click it. Alright. And then where are we at here? Left oil pressure's been checked. N1's good. We turned off the ignition and engine start. Right condition lever now goes to low idle. We don't take the left condition lever up to high idle. So bring this one down to low idle. I think that's just to help with the left engine start. I don't know. Left and right prop RPM. It says 1050 minimum. They're at 1180. And then observe left and right prop pitch lights are illuminated, which they are down here. So left and right prop pitch are both illuminated. Fantastic. Then we're going to go up to our voltmeter. And we're going to put it on left gen, and it should say 27.5 to 29. And it's good. And then we'll go down to our left generator switch, reset, and then on. And then we want to make sure that the left DC gen light is extinguished. So right now, left DC gen light is on. So we're going to go over here. We're going to reset the left generator. Just left click it once, and you saw the light was that one right there. It clicked off. I'll show you that view anyway. So you can see the light is gone now. Alright. And then on the right generator it says to reset it again. Not sure why, but I can do that from here. So I'll just left click once, reset, and then we want to make sure left gen and right gen tie open lights are both extinguished. Well, I don't see them lit up there, so we must be good to go. And then right generator on, which it's already on. That, ladies and gentlemen, is as easy as it gets. That is your that is your startup checklist. Alrighty folks, that is going to take us into our before taxi checklist, and then while the startup was easy, we had a lot going on the power on and all that, it gets a lot crazier here, and this is where I think most people will probably start to struggle. But the before taxi and the run-up checklist are the ones that really kind of, you do a lot of bouncing around, and there's a lot of things that you may not even know why you're doing them. Some of them I don't even know why you're doing them. But when it's all said and done, some of these things, if you happen to skip them, it's not going to be the end of the world. This is a simulator, but in the real world, you wouldn't want to miss any of these. So starting first, we're going to check our electrical system. We're going to go down to gen ties, and we're going to make sure they're open. And that's a right click. So we right click, and then we should have left gen and right gen tie lights, open lights illuminated on our panel here. And you can see that right here. Left and right are both illuminated. Now we go up to our voltmeter while that's still in that position, and the TPL feed, which is that one there, right click to that one, it should be between 26 and 28, and I'd say that's pretty good. Right and left gen should both be 27.5 to 29. So right gen is about 29, 28-ish. There we go. So it's going to be right in this area. It's got to be, it's pretty high, right? And then center should be 23 volts, and I realize that I'm probably pretty loud, and I apologize if I am. I just want to make sure the engines aren't drowning me out, okay? So 23 volts on the center, which it is, okay? And then we're going to go back down here. We're going to put gen ties to normal, all right? So you're going to left click it once, and then we're going to make sure those lights went out. The left and right gen tie lights, tie open lights are out at this point. Okay, and now we're going to test our bus sense. So what we're going to do, this is one of the hard ones. So bus sense is this guy here. Okay, reset is up, is left click, and then test is down or right click. So I'm going to right click it, and then I have to hold it down because I want to see if the left gen tie, right gen tie, and bat tie open lights are all illuminated. So I can hold the button and click my view, and that lets me come over and see that they're all illuminated. As soon as I let go of the button, they stayed on. I forgot. On this one they stay on because you have to reset it. But before we do, we need to go up and check our voltmeter again. Alright, so going up top here, and on the center it should be at 0 volts, which it is on the center. Now we're going to reset it. I forgot that this one, once you put it in test, it stays there, right? So left click to reset, and then we want to make sure all those lights went out, which they did. Now we go back up to the voltmeter, and on the center it should be between 27.5 and 29, which it is. You can see there's a lot of bouncing around here. All right. Now we can turn our avionics master switch on. That's right up above this little panel over our battery and generators. Just left click it to turn it on, and your PFD is going to start coming on, and your FMS will come on, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. Interior master switch, which is up on the overhead, that's as required. We're just going to turn it on. Fasten seatbelts, no smoking sign will go on. Master panel and cockpit lights as required. We're going to turn those on as well, just to do it. We don't need them right now, but we're going to do it anyway. And then cabin lights as required. And then you got all your other lights here. You can adjust these as needed and so on. And then now we need to check that our ISIS display, or ESIS display, ISIS is probably not the best way to say it these days, right? Our ESIS display, that the initialization is complete. It's not going to say initialization complete. It's this guy here, okay? But the initialization is complete, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be able to make any use of it right now. Tracking? All right. Exterior lights as required. Now, technically what we could do with engines running, we could have nav recognition lights on, and then we don't really need anything else. And I don't remember the rules on it. I know the beacon light had to be on, and I know somebody yelled at me about the strobe light. It's not supposed to be on unless you're on the runway. They didn't really yell at me, but excuse me. There's gonna be a lot of coughs in your face on this one. But anyway, nav and recognition lights, if I'm not mistaken, should be on at this point. Okay, moving on. Moving over to the FO panel, we need to test the overspeed warning. Where are we at? Overspeed. There we go. Oh, I'd say that's working pretty well, isn't it? Now our environmental control systems, we're going to do automatic climate control. Now if you have the checklist, you'll see like you got automatic control, then you got manual control, we're not doing manual. We're going to do everything on auto because it's just easier that way. So we're going to set this to auto, right click it once. Cockpit cabin temp as required, so that's these guys here. And I'm going to, it's got the blowers on auto too. I'm going to move those off of auto just to turn them down because they're so loud. It does say to put them on auto, so technically we're doing manual right now, but I'm just not gonna mess with it. I'll put them back on auto when the sound isn't an issue. Environmental bleed air needs to go to auto as well. So that is, no, wait a minute. Yeah, no, this is environmental bleed air. These are pneumatic and environment. This one goes to auto. So down is low, and then up is auto, and then, or is that normal? Oh yeah, it was on auto. So that's a 3-position switch. So right click all the way down to low, left click, middle is auto, left click again is normal. There you go. So now it's on auto. Bleed air valves. That's these two right here. So these need to be open. Left click these, that opens those up. And that takes care of setting up our environmental stuff. And again, it's a simulator. In the real world, we'd want to leave those on auto, but we wouldn't be worried about whether or not we could hear because we'd have a headset to talk to each other, right? So that's going to move us all the way over to the prop sync. We're going to turn that on real quick, which is easy enough. Just jump back over here, click it on, and you can see it lights up pretty bright when it's on. And then we're going to do our TCAS. Jump up here. Your TCAS is going to be on this guy. So you're going to click this one once, click it again, and then you're going to click test. And you see your TCAS test taking place. Okay? Now, while it's going through that, what you're looking for is the pattern on the MFD.
Okay.
I guess it's okay. FMS text incompatible. I don't even know what that means right now. The test message appeared, the red traffic message displayed on the PFD. We can test it again. And then vertical speed test pattern will be displayed on IVSIs. I don't know what IVSI stands for. You can see this popping up here, the traffic thing here, the red things here. And it's going to yell at us again.
TCAS system test. Okay.
That's pretty loud, actually. Emergency frequency, this one here should be extinguished. So that's not extinguished, and that's extinguished, right? So there you go. Let's see, normal, and then, so this is where you turn traffic on. It's on TA only, and you can change that here. We're going to change it to TARA, and we're going to turn traffic on just so I don't forget later on. I'll probably remember. But anyway, moving on to our TAWS. I have no idea what that stands for because, you know, there's no manual. Anyway, moving on. We're going to verify avionics are on, which they are, and they're functioning. And then here's what we're going to be looking for on this test. Radio altimeter, ADC 1 and 2, AHRS 1 and 2, GPS 1, gear and flap indicating system, display system, FMS, blah, blah, blah. A lot of stuff. Here's what we're actually looking for on our displays. All right. We're going to make sure TAWS, I don't know what it stands for, but it has to do with these guys here. Okay. So we're going to make sure that these switches, glide slope, terrain inhibit, flap override, are deselected. White means they're deselected, okay? If they were selected, then it would say active. We don't want that. Verify that there's no inoperative mode messages. In other words, an amber GPWS or terrain message displayed on the PFD, and there's not. There's no messages displayed on it. We're going to select the present position map and terrain for display on the MFD. You're going to do that by clicking here. PPOS is what you want. If it's not on that, click this again, right? So that's TCAS, that's PPOS. Okay, that's present position map on and terrain. And so terrain is this guy here, so we want to select until we see terrain is highlighted in blue. So that's what we want to select on here. All right. Now we're going to conduct a self-test of the system by depressing the glide slope inhibit button and then releasing it. So you're just going to click it basically. And then the following enunciations and alerts should be issued. Now I'm going to go through these real quick so that you know, because some of them come really fast. All right. You're going to get an amber GPWS and terrain enunciator on the PFD and terrain fail on the MFD. So the enunciator for GPWS and terrain here and terrain fail here. All right. A momentary illumination of the glide slope inhibit and flap override annunciator switches. It'll say active and active. This one will go first, this one will go a little bit later. An amber ground proximity message on the PFD. So you get ground proximity will pop up over here. A red pull-up message on the PFD. Test pattern on the MFD, so it'll just show a bunch of squares with different colors for the terrain display. And then the terrain display pattern will go away. All TAWS messages and annunciator switches will be extinguished. So everything will go away. If it doesn't all go away, we have a problem. Tracking on all that? So just keep an eye between these two, and you know, out of the corner of your eye, watch for these to light up as well. Here we go. Click it once. Doesn't seem to do anything at first, and then all of a sudden it goes active.
Awareness test start.
There's our GPWS ground proximity. There's our light up there. There's our pattern down here. Pull up, GPWS, terrain fail. All that stuff happens really fast.
Terrain awareness system pass.
There we go.
Terrain awareness test complete.
All right. I don't know why I'm coughing so much. Hold on, let me take a drink here. Ah, exquisite. All right. So that takes care of our TAWS test, and now you know how to do it. All right. Let's see. We need to check our altimeters and our ESIS altimeter. So this one and this one are separate, and I need to pull up my weather to do that. So let me go to Active Sky real quick, refresh it, and I'm using that on Sim Toolkit Pro, Active Sky. And if we look here, we can see our weather for Phoenix. Expected weather conditions. Come back here. On the 2nd at 1550 Zulu, 240 at 5 knots, 10 statute miles, visibility, broken clouds at 18,000 feet, broken at 25,000, sea level pressure and dew point or something like that, and then altimeter 29er79er. Good enough, right? We're not doing a full brief on that. That's not what this is about. So 29er79er. So let's set that on here. You can see it right there. So 2979. Scroll it down. Easy enough, right? There's 79, and then we have to set it here too. You see that's still at 2992. So you can go 2979 on this. Now, what you can do if you want, if you just want to set them both at the same time, is you can just hit the B or the Bravo key, and that'll just sync all of them. That's the cheater way to do it. Flaps are in the up position, so we don't need to worry about those. Flight controls, we know they're free and somewhat correct. My Yoke has been acting up. I got a new one coming in today, and I'm really excited about that. But proper direction of travel, and sometimes doesn't fully travel, but that's it. And then there's a brake check, but we're actually going to do that on our taxi out, if I remember. Now, it's not on the checklist. This just blew my mind that this is not on the checklist, unless I missed it, but I don't think I did. Setting up the FMS and your V speeds, right? Like, you have to set up your FMS and your V speeds. Now let me pop something up over here. Oh, that's not what I wanted to pop up, but well, it is what I wanted to pop up. Fantastic. Okay, so here's what I want you to look at. I'm going to bring a chart over here, but before I do, we've got our pressure altitude is what? 1,140 feet, right? When we adjusted our altimeters, it shows about 1,140 feet on the altitude display, right? The altitude indicator. Okay, so for our takeoff speeds, let me bring this over here now. These charts are with the quote-unquote manual, and I'll keep saying that because it's not a manual. All right, you've got sea level 2,000 feet, 4,000, 8. It goes all the way up to 10. Now move this back out of the way for a second because we need our outside air temperature, and so it's 19 degrees Celsius. Okay, all right, and then you're going to need our weight, which I wrote down. Okay, we're going to go with 2,000 feet. Why? Because it's a higher pressure altitude, which means you're going to have a higher V1, VR, and V2 than you would if you used the sea level pressure chart. Okay, so even though we're not at 2,000 feet, we're going to go to the next chart up, and we're going to do the same thing with our weight. All right, actually the weight's so close that we'll stick at 13,000 pounds, but you want to use the next chart up. So if you're in between sea level and 2,000, you use the 2,000. If you're in between 2 and 4, you use the 4,000 chart. All right, that's the way you want to do it. Okay, so we're using our 2,000 foot chart. We're at 13,156 pounds. We're actually a little lighter now because we're burning fuel, but we're going to go with the 13,000 pounds anyway. What did we say our temperature was? It's plus 19. The hotter it gets, the thinner the air gets, which makes your which puts your aircraft, how do I explain this? your aircraft thinks, quote unquote, because it doesn't really think, but the physics of the aircraft act as though you're at a higher altitude the higher the temperature is, right? So it's 19 degrees Celsius. Well, 15 is lower, which means if we look at this, at 15 our V1 is 98 knots, but at 25 it's 99. Which one do you think we're going to use? We're going to use the 25. We're going to round up because this requires a higher V1, same VR and V2, but still it's safer to round up than it is to round down. Still coughing in your face. Must be a tutorial thing. Alright, so we're going to use 25 on the temperature. We're going to use 13,000 pounds because we'll be at 13,000. We'll burn enough fuel by then. It's 156 pounds. We'll burn it. So we can get away with that. But if we were at, say, 13,400 pounds, I'd round up to 14,000. It's just safer. Alright, so it's going to be V1 is 99, VR is 104, and V2 is 111. Okay, and you're saying, that's great, Captain Mac. How do I set those? Because I want to be able to see them, right? Okay, I got to find the button, but I believe it was, no, it's not that one. Where are you at? Alright, Captain Mac's a little slow on the uptake sometimes. Don't mind me. Press the refs button. There you go. That's how you set up your V-speeds. I have no idea what VT is. I probably should know. I mean, I do have a real pilot's license, but I haven't flown a real aircraft in forever. Cough coming your way. Alright, so we're going to press the refs button, and then we're going to set our V-speeds. Now, what were our V-speeds? Well, I need to pull that chart back up over here. Okay, so we were doing 13,000 pounds, 25, so it was 99, 104, and 111. So let's set those. So go to refs. You're going to click on V1, right? Click it, and then scroll it up or down, right? So it was 99. Come on. Let me pop this up for you. Okay, and then I'll just change the view a little so you can still scroll it. Okay, 99. Now, here's the problem. There is a problem with popping that up. I can't do the next one without putting it back down because I have to select the button. So VR is 104. Alright, 3, 4, and then V2 was 111, correct? Yes, 111. So V2, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we go. And then you can also, this is where you do your minimums, whether it's radio or baro, and then your VREF for landing as well. Now I don't have any landing charts as far as I know. Let me double check. Nope, everything I have is takeoff charts. So here again, we're lacking in something. So I don't know what my VREF will actually be because I don't have any landing charts. Killing me here, right? Come on, proper manual is seriously important in an aircraft like this. Okay, enough about that. So we've set up the FMS, we've programmed our V-speeds into the aircraft, and then that's going to take care of all of the before taxi checklist items. Okay, so setting up the FMS. First of all, it's located behind the throttle quadrant, or your throttles. It's not a throttle quadrant really, but you know what I'm talking about. Also, if you want, you can click on Vehicle, Instrument Panel, and you can select that, and it'll pop it up for you like that. Or you can click right here where the hand is, and that'll pop it up and pop it back down. Alright, so there you go. Now you know how to find the FMS. Pretty simple. It's very similar to a Boeing FMS. We're going to start with our position initialization. You just click right here. We're going to put in our airport, which is Phoenix, KPHX. Then we're going to go to next page. We're going to grab a GPS position, go to previous page, and we're going to put it in right there. Bam. That's our initialization. All right. You can look at next page. It's the same thing, right? Then we go to flight plan. We're going to start at Phoenix, KPHX. We're going to fly to Sedona, which is KSEZ. Put that in right there. Alright, we're not putting in an alternate. I'm not worried about that. Okay, I'm going to execute that. It's pretty straightforward and simple. My flight plan, which I didn't show you guys the flight plan, but on the flight plan, we basically were a, and I'm just double checking, but we're basically a departure, one-way point, and then we're there. Okay, so performance initialization page, cruise altitude. We're going to cruise at 15,500 feet. That's what I chose. Deal with it. All right, it put in our zero fuel weight for us. Manual fuel in pounds. if you're not sure, there's two ways you can go about getting it. Number one is you can just look in your fuel and payload manager, or you can do it this way. You can go over here and you can say, okay, we got about 2,000 pounds, and in the auxiliary we still have what, 200 pounds each, right? So that's 2,400 pounds. So let's put in 2,400. There we go. How many packs do we have? All right, now I don't know if this is counting the pilots. If it is, there's 4 of us. All right, at 170 pounds each. I'm not that good at doing math in my head. Somebody's already got the answer, I guarantee it, but I'm going to find a pen. At 170 pounds times 4 is going to be 680 pounds, right? 4, 5, 6. Yep, 680 pounds. So let's put that in there. 680 pounds. Bam. Invalid. What are you talking about? Oh, that's why. I'm an idiot. I didn't even have to do the math. Clear and delete. How many packs at 170 pounds? Right? So we got 4 of them. And then I think we need to put the slash. Let's see. Nope, just put 4 in there. Cargo, how many pounds? We got 200 pounds of cargo, remember? There we go. Execute that. Bam. Alright. So that takes care of our performance initialization. Now, okay, we don't need to do that anymore. We need to go to departure arrival. Okay. What was that wind again? Now I got to look at it again. It was 240 at 5. And we are on the northwest side of the runway, so runway 26 would be the best for us. Let's go to the next page. Runway 26. And then we are scheduled for Quakey 1. I've never even heard of that one until now. So let's find it. Quakey 1. And then we're transitioning at Cardinal. Look at that. Bam. And then from there it's direct into Sedona. We're not using an arrival, but we will be using an approach. That'll be fun. Execute that. Now, if you want, we could put in our departure, go to departure arrival, put in our arrival. No star. We're going to use runway 3. And then it's not even showing the approach. So we're just going to have to fly it the hard way, I guess. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now our flight plan is set up. Now we need to do V-speeds, right? So let's put this on flight plan page for now. And we'll go in at cruise. We'll go over this a little bit more in case you're worried about that. Okay. All right, folks. Before we get into, we're actually ready to taxi out at this point, right? But before we do that, we need to talk about something here. What I want to talk about is the integration of charts into this aircraft. So let's hop down here real quick. All right, this actually ticks me off. It really does. First of all, if I click here, it pops this little window up here, okay, which is helpful for us. This is the bottom of the FMC, okay. Now, if you have a NAVIGRAPH subscription, you're going to be wanting to go through this to get it set up. Because if you click on chart, you'll get this page, and then when you click on an airport, you'll get nothing all day long. Alright? To make matters worse, the way this is set up is absolutely friggin' stupid, in my opinion. It's stupid. Now, it may be somewhat realistic, but it's stupid. I want you to remember that you will need the enter key on your keyboard to make this work. Now, wouldn't really be stupid if I had, you guessed it, a manual to tell me that. Alright? I just tried it just to see. Like, seriously. I just tried it to see. And it worked. Alright? Let me tell you where I figured it out first. If you click, you see these blue arrows? If I click on this one, that's my format for this lower portion, which I've got it on present position map right now, right? If I click on this one, it's this up here. Well, look at that. It's got a built-in checklist. Holy guacamole. And I said, sweet. Now, you can't see it real well. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger here. It won't let me adjust the size of this window unless I undock it. So I undocked it. Now, listen to the engines. They hate when you do that. Alright? It says push to select. Okay? Now let's redock this window. If I can. I don't know if I can. Come on. Nope. I can't redock it now. Okay, that's fine. We'll leave it right there. If I push to select, it does nothing. Does nothing. Okay, I can scroll the wheel. Isn't that great? But I can't push to select. Okay, hit the enter key. Oh my word. How stupid is that? Again, wouldn't be stupid if I had a manual that told me to do that. But I don't. Alright? Hit enter again to acknowledge, and there's your checklist, right? So before engine start, we went through that. You got to hit enter for each item. We did all of this. Annunciators, fuel system, fuel quantity, pilot subpanel, on and on. Next normal checklist. We're still in the engine. This is the engine start, right? And on it goes. Okay? And then here's it. We did engine start battery. We didn't use ground power. I didn't even touch on that. Okay? The rest of the engine start. This is just the checklist. Okay? And then that's external power. We're not using that. How do I go back? I can't. If I hit the backspace, it doesn't work. Okay? Shift enter doesn't work. Alright? So I just have to check all these off now. Okay? How stupid is that? That's dumb. I should be able to go back. Right? If I hit, maybe if I hit escape. I didn't try that. Oh, it does. It does work. Okay, fantastic. Good. Hit escape then. So we didn't use external power. We did do the before taxi. Hit enter to go into the checklist. We did all of this. There's 4 pages of it. Next normal checklist would be before takeoff run up, which would be all kinds of fun. Alright? Okay, so FMS text, we'll put that back on there for now and leave it alone. Great. Now we want to use charts. Okay? Bam. Charts. Airport info. Watch this. Hit select. Chart loading. Oh, now you're now I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying right now. You're saying, Captain Mac, I've been trying to fly this aircraft for, you know, a week or however long it's been released, and when I click that, the screen just goes black. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, there is a way. Oh yeah, let's go back. Go escape, chart, go all the way down here. First of all, the day chart is really hard to see, right? How did it work? Ugh. You see what I'm talking about? Chart dimming is what I want to go to, and it's not letting. Oh yeah, you got to click this guy. Click this, it goes down to day. Now you think click this and it goes to night, right? No. Hit enter, then it goes to night. Okay? You see where I'm coming from? Doesn't make sense, does it? Hit enter and it goes to night, and then you got to hit this again to get back up here. Okay? That's for navigating these charts. That's great. But if you don't have the charts yet, you're trying to figure out what the deal is, right? So let's escape. If you have a NAVIGRAPH subscription, hit the status page. Go to chart subscription. Hit enter. There's my subscription number. That's the name I use for my NAVIGRAPH. It's going to either just say a number or something like that. Alright? And you're just going to hit enter again here. When you do, it's going to open a web page. You're going to have to log into your NAVIGRAPH and give permission for the aircraft to do its thing. Right? And then you'll have your charts. Then you'll have your charts. Alright? And then you've got some other information in there. I can't figure out what any of it is. You must do that in order to activate your NAVIGRAPH charts in here. If you don't, you will sit here all day long and you will never see a chart. Okay, so one more time, hit the status, go to chart subscription, hit the enter key, and then hit enter again here, and it'll automatically open up your browser, and you log into your account and give permission, and then you're good. Then you come back in and you go chart, and now your charts are in here. Alright, so go to airport info, click select. Now, I do have another complaint here. Imagine that, me with another complaint. It's really hard to see these freaking charts in here. Okay, I will be continuing to use my Sim Toolkit Pro, but it is nice that I can throw them in here real quick. I have another complaint. It does not show my position on the chart. Why not? Why not? It's integrated into the aircraft. Shouldn't it show where I'm at on the chart? But it doesn't. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, you just activated on NAVIGRAPH. No. I shouldn't have to. Plus, that takes more memory, and I don't want to do that. Okay? So, yeah, I have a complaint about that. The other complaint I have is it's just hard to see this thing. Right? I can zoom in, and I can move around using this thing. Okay? Which is fine. So if I need to read information, I can do that. If I want to flip this chart, I can flip it. But here again, okay, if I flip the chart by pressing this button here, flip it, okay, now let's say I want to switch charts, and I'm only keeping it up like this so you can see it better. So now I want to go to my departure chart. I'm at the end of the runway, I'm ready to go to departure, select. Oh, my departure chart's sideways. Flip it. Okay, you got to flip it again. A little obnoxious. Also a little obnoxious that I can't even see the whole chart on here. Like there's no zoom level that lets me see the whole chart. Why? Shouldn't I be able to see the whole chart? But it doesn't let me do that. Alright, so let's put that back down there. So as you can see, you're going to have to move around. If you want to read this information on the chart, you're going to have to zoom in. Oh, that was the flip, sorry. You're going to have to zoom in, and then you're going to have to move over to where that information is using this. Alright, you could probably map a button to this, and then when you're done, you can zoom back out. So you see that box is where it zooms in, and it's just in, out. That's it. There's no other zoom levels, right? So, you know, I don't have... That's moving my zoom thing around right now. So I can move where I zoom, too. But I don't know. It just... I don't know. It's clunky to me. It's really not that great. To be honest with you, it's just not. You know, there should be an option to automatically fit that chart into the window. I think it should have your aircraft's position as it relates to that chart. That should be easy to integrate. I just don't think it's that great, guys. I'm not impressed with the way this chart integration is. Now, not only am I not impressed with the way the integration is, but it took me forever to figure that out. You know why? Well, it's simple. Because I hit the stats page and I see, oh, chart subscription, and I'd scroll to it and then I'd press this. I could press this all day long. It's not going to do anything. Why is it not doing anything? You see? Okay? I have to use the enter key. Well, that's just... Come on. Again, not a problem if you provide a manual that tells me how to do it. You shouldn't have to watch what's going to probably end up being like a 2 to 2.5 hour long Captain Mac video or skip through chapters to figure out how to do that if you're the kind of person who reads a manual. Now, I know a lot of you that you're watching this video because you're like, I ain't reading a stupid manual. Well, you're in luck. There's no manual to read anyway. Alright? So it's ridiculous. And the last thing I want to talk about. Go to charts again. Where's all those charts that I put in here? Remember? You remember when I used that chart manager and I loaded in those JPEGs? Where are those at? They're not in here, right? Now you're saying, well, I mean, your stuff's showing up there. Yeah, it is. But this was showing up, like it shows this because I put it in the FMS, right? But before I figured out how to link my NAVIGRAPH to this, I figured out how to put those charts into that folder, right? I'd get the same thing if I came in here and clicked on these. Okay, and then when I figured out that you use the enter key, it was before I figured out how to link my NAVIGRAPH. I still couldn't get them to show up. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe I figured out how to link NAVIGRAPH first. So do me a favor, because I'm not positive on this. Go ahead and go to that charts manager. Alright, put in a couple of JPEGs. This is if you have not linked your NAVIGRAPH to this. Put in a couple of JPEGs real quick. Okay, and then go in here, make sure you select that departure or whatever JPEGs you put in there, and go in here using the enter key without linking NAVIGRAPH. Just go to charts, select the chart, and tell me, hit enter and tell me if it shows up, because I don't know now because my NAVIGRAPH is linked, right? Okay, enough about that. I think it's ridiculous, but that's the way it is at this point, right? So if you're watching and you work for MilViz, there's some issues that could definitely be resolved on this, and I'm sure more than just me would greatly appreciate that very much. Alright, enough about that. Now we know how the charts work. Alright, there's a couple more things I want to show you before we actually taxi out here, and I'm not even going to show the taxi. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a couple of things real quick that are important for you, and then we're going to do the departure brief real fast, and then I'll taxi out and we'll come back on when we get ready for the run-up. But going through our plan, so normally, you know, once you get everything in the FMC, you go to the legs page, you switch things to plan, and then you're able to step through your waypoints. It's a little different on this one. First thing, it's easiest just to pop this up here, your FMS, or your CDU or FMC, whatever you want to call it. Okay, they call it an FMS in here. You're going to click on this button right here, and click it again to go to plan mode. Alright? Now, in order to step through your waypoints, you need to go to MFD Advanced, and then you're going to select next waypoint. Alright, now you can see there's Phoenix right there. I don't know where it's got it sitting at initially, but just continue to click next waypoint and it steps through. If you want to change the range, you do it with this knob right here. Okay, so we'll step through our waypoints real quick, and you'll see this takes us all the way up to Quakey, Snobble, and then Cartel probably, and then runway 3. But we want to fly an approach for runway 3, which means we're probably going to remove Cartel out of there. So let me show you how that works. If you go to your flight plan page, I'm sorry, that's not correct. Is it? No, it's not correct. There's a discontinuity, that's okay. Go to departure arrival, index, arrivals, okay, and then you're going to see here's the approach available. I must have missed it earlier, but this is the approach, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to double check here, but we are flying, yeah, the GPS runway 3. It's the only approach that's actually available there. So I'm assuming if there were more, then there it would be. So we have our runway selected. Select this guy, and you can see it puts in these waypoints here. We're going to execute, and now we have a discontinuity between the waypoint before Cartel, which is Snobble, or between Cartel and Exudi here, which when I show you the approach, this actually doing it this way is going to make it super easy. But if we go to our legs page, just like you do any other time, and go to the next page, there's Snobble and then Cartel. We want to go from Snobble direct to Exudi, right? So I'm going to grab Exudi because I don't want those vectors. So select Exudi, go back here. We're getting rid of Cartel altogether, so just put it right where Cartel is. See how that put those dashed lines there? Okay, when I execute it, that's the new flight plan. Bam, there it is. Now, at Exudi, I do have to be at or above 8,000 feet. You'll see that when we do the arrival briefing. There's no other altitudes in here. Okay, I could look at my departure, and I don't even think the departure is listed on here. I gotta pull that up. That's good stuff, right? Standard instant departure. We are doing the Quakey. There it is. For some reason, I have a different departure on here. Oh no, I have an arrival on here for some reason. You guys will see. I'm going to take the arrival off there. It must have been from a previous flight plan. Okay, my apologies. So for the departure, we do have some minimum altitudes, right? But what are they? Well, at Goalie, which isn't on here, we're going the opposite way. At Z-Dog, we're supposed to be at or above 5,000. Let's see if that's on here. It should be before oxygen. Yeah, Z-Dog, at or above 5,000, right? And then that's it. So my ultimate cruise altitude, if I go to my performance page, VNAV setup, our cruise altitude isn't even in here. We put in performance initialization, didn't we? No, there we go, 15,500. It's not putting those in there for some reason. I would think that it would put them in there, but you know, doing a climb in this is a little bit different, and you'll see. Right. So enough about that. That was a lot of talk to figure out how to set that up, but it's pretty straightforward. So we'll meet our altitude restriction there, and you'll see that on a departure brief. And then for our arrival or our approach, Exudi at or above 8,000. And then let's just see if there's any others there real fast while I'm looking at it. At Lyrit, it's 6,600. And it's got that in there as well. And that's it. Alright, so pretty straightforward there. Oh, sorry. I got something stuck in my throat there for a second. Okay, so pretty straightforward there. Now, the only other thing I want to do is actually take care of the come on, brain function. That's not what I wanted to do either. Oh well. I want to take care of the taxi and the departure brief. Okay, there we go. I figured it out. Okay, so using our Sim Toolkit Pro, absolutely love this program. We can see that we've got our NAVIGRAPH charts in here. Now we are on the northwest ramp over here, and we're taking runway 26 for departure, right? So we're just going to take Alpha all the way down to the end, Alpha 11, line up there. ATIS is going to be 127.575. We're not using it right now, but there may be something coming in the not too distant future where we start getting to use ATC. Keep your fingers crossed. Phoenix clearance on 118.1, ground thrust 19.75, tower on 18.7, and then most of this other information is really a non-issue for us at this point, so I'm not worried about it. Now, let's look at our departure. can see I zoomed it in a little bit there. Come on, there we go. Zooming in just a little. Alright, so runway 26 over here, it's Wivla, Hervu, and then a right turn up here to Z-Dog. That's where we need to be at or above 5,000 feet. Then Oxygen, Z-Lub, Quakey, Snobble, and then you saw from Snobble we got rid of Cardle already. Okay, so easy days there. Looking up here, radar required. We're good on all of this. Initial climb for 26, climb heading 258 to 1635, then direct to Wivla, then on track. So we should have vectors in there. I'll have to take a look. If we do, we need to climb to 1635 before going to Wivla, and then it's pretty straightforward from there. You guys get the gist of it. I don't think we need to sit here and go over it all day, do we? No, of course we don't. Let me get this out of the way. Why does it do that to me? Okay, do that and then move it. There we go. So I do just want to check real quick that we have vectors before Wivla. Yep, so it's up to 1635 and then to Wivla. Alright, okay, so that's enough of that. I'm going to taxi out and I will see you guys when we're ready to do the run-up. Alright, it seemed like that taxi took forever, and then right as I got here, the British Airways 747 just landed right past me. I would have had that on the recording, but I just couldn't get to it quick enough. Now, at this point, we're going to go into the before takeoff run-up, and out of everything we've done so far, this is probably the most complex part of this aircraft. There are some things we can't even do because you got to click more than one switch, and it's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. So, but we're going to do the best we can. I'm going to show you everything that I can. I'm going to explain what I understand as best I can, and then we're going to get on the road. No, we're going to get in the air. Let me switch this back to our present position mode because that's where I want to be, and it's just bugging me right now. And let's dive right into this. So, avionics and radar are checked, they're good. Pressurization needs to be set. So, the environmental bleed air needs to go to normal. That's over here on the FO's panel. Alright, environmental bleed air, up is normal. So that's low, auto, up is normal. That's left click until it gets all the way up, okay? Bleed air valves need to be open. That's these two here, and they are open. They're in the up and open position, okay? Pressurization controller needs to be set. Now this one's a little funky, so you need to adjust the cabin altitude knob to indicate 1,000 feet below pressure altitude. Well, if we look over here, that's the wrong one. Our pressure altitude is 1,140 feet. So we need to come back here, all the way back here, and we need to adjust this until it's 1,000 feet below where we're at, right? So it needs to be what? It needs to be negative. Let's see, if it's 1,001, it needs to be negative 140 feet, right? So we'll make it negative 200. Alright, that's 1,000 feet below what our pressure altitude is showing. Now we need to set the rate knob. That's this one to 12 o'clock position, which would be 5 or 50, not 5. Okay? Alright, we're going to right click the cabin pressure switch to hold it at the test position. Okay? And that's going to be this one right here. And I want you right click, not left, because we don't want to dump the cabin pressure. When we do that, let's jump up to this view here. When we do that, what should happen is the cabin altimeter and VSI should show a descent indication. They won't. It's supposed to, but it doesn't. And the cabin pressure, and that's it. That's all we're looking for. It should show a descent. It's not gonna. It never has. Alright, but we're going to try it. So we're going to right click this. There we go, and hold it. It's not showing a descent. It's supposed to, but it's not. I don't know why. Maybe the pressurization just doesn't work. Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. Either way, now we're going to set the pressurization controller. So the inner scale, which is going to be the aircraft's altitude. So that's this inner scale here, okay, should be set to the planned cruise altitude plus 1,000 feet. Can't get my brain to work. So we're planning on 15,500, which is right here. So we want to set this to 16,500. Okay, the inner scale here. Boop, boop, boop. That's going to be close enough. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. All right, and then that's it. Now we're going to check the autopilot. Okay, so we're going to check the pitch trim, Make sure it's in the takeoff position here. Okay, and I'll just move over so you can see it. There you go. So we'll just put it in the general takeoff position. Alright. Elevator is going to go to the forward position, and then we're going to engage the autopilot. Alright, we're going to press this guy right here to engage the autopilot. What we're looking for is autopilot is going to show up on the display here, or not on here, it's going to show up on here on the PFD. You'll see autopilot right up top here. Okay, and then we're going to move the pitch trim in both directions, and what we're looking for is to see that the autopilot disengages with each operation but yaw damper remains engaged. Now it doesn't tell you to put the yaw damper on. Here's the yaw damper, so put that on. You see green YD right there, pop it up for you, green YD, and then put the autopilot on. Bam, look, it moved immediately on its own. See, that's not me doing it. Now if I push the yoke all the way forward, it's going to trim up. If I pull the yoke all the way back, it's going to trim down. And this is, you know what, this is what it's going to have us going through here in a sec anyway. Alright, now the other thing it's supposed to do is if I try to adjust, see how that disconnected the autopilot? So when I try to adjust this, shut up already. You gotta click it back on or it doesn't stop. When I try to adjust this with my controls, see, and that's me using the mouse wheel, and this is me using my controls on my yoke. It disconnects the autopilot, but the yaw damper is supposed to stay on in green. It doesn't. Alright? It doesn't, but whatever. Okay, so elevator centered, engage the autopilot. We did the rearward pressure, we did the forward pressure, and all you're doing is making sure that the trim moves like it's supposed to. Now I'm going to disconnect that like that. It'll stop beeping in a sec. That way I can actually adjust this. Maybe. What are you doing? There we go. Come on. There we go. Let's adjust that back to there. Okay. What are we doing next? There's the autopilot trim disconnect. It says depress to first level. I haven't figured this out for the life of me. Okay. When you disconnect the autopilot, it disconnects. You get the red blinking thing and that's it. I don't know what the first level is. I don't know. But we're done with that. Alright. So I made that a little easier for you. That's really what you need to do. Turn the autopilot on. Push the yoke full forward. And then pull it all the way back. Make sure that this moves opposite of the direction you're pulling it. Okay, and then try to adjust the trim manually. That should disconnect the autopilot. Make sense to everybody? Okay, yaw damper should be on. So there it is. We got a lot more to go, don't worry. Trim tabs are set. Engine control friction locks are set. Flaps are not set for takeoff. Let's put those down one. Alright. Okay. Overspeed governor and rudder boost. For the life of me, I'm not getting this to work right. I know I'm not. That or it's just not working. But either way. So, observe that the rudder boost is illuminated. The rudder boost off warning is illuminated. Okay? Where's it at? There it is. Rudder boost off is illuminated. Okay? Now, for the rudder boost switch, we're going to put it on and make sure the light goes off. So far, so good, right? So, left click, it's on. Jump back up here and the light is off. Fantastic. Now I'm skipping a bunch of things on here because I can't do them. I can't do them for a couple of reasons. Either I can't get the views to work properly, I have to click more than one thing, or it's because I don't have separate throttles. So that's just the way it's going to be. But it's listen, this stuff's it's straightforward. If you really want to do it, go for it. You don't have to. It's a simulator. Okay. At this point, we need to put our prop levers full forward. So let's jump up to this view. Prop levers are full forward, right? There you go. And then it says low pitch stop switch, hold to ground idle stop. I'm not sure where this one is, guys. I would think it would be down here, but I don't see it. It's definitely not on the center console. Never found it. Probably should have just crossed it off on the list. Well, maybe hold on. Brain's not functioning properly right now. It's this one, right? Low pitch stop switch, hold to ground. It's this one here. Hold to ground idle, which is left click. You gotta hold it though. Yeah, this is one of those that was hard. That's why. Okay, so you hold it to ground idle. All right, and what should happen is the left and right prop pitch lights should be illuminated. They are. If I let go, they're illuminated too, so what difference does it make? Now it says to set the power levers, not levels, power levers to 1500. So let's do that, 1500. They like to jump. It's kind of weird. They advance weird, in my opinion. Come on, I'm trying to advance them smooth. Come on, 1500 already. Close. Okay, 1500, there we go. Now for the prop levers, we're supposed to cycle to low and high RPM, alright, and then release the stop switch. Well, how do I do that? I can't do 4 things at once when I'm in a computer. So anyway, the prop pitch lights should be extinguished, which they are. If you look down here, the lights are gone now, okay? And then prop RPM stabilized at 1150 to 1250. So we need to bring it back down. And let's make sure it stabilizes somewhere between 1150 and 1250. Alright, there we go, 1180 or 90. Good enough, okay. Now is the auto feather check, okay? So we're going to hold to test the auto feather. I'm telling you, this stuff gets crazy, man. It's hard to do in here, it really is. Okay, so auto feather, we're going to hold it to the test position, which is a right click, okay? Then we're going to move the power levers to 22% torque. Now I have to cross my arms here as I do this. And we're watching for the AFX to show up in the middle here. So here's our torque, 22% or greater. See the AFX pop up? That's what we're looking for there. Let me bring it back down a little. Okay. And then retard individually. I can't do that because I can't get them on individual things, right? So when you do it, the annunciators should extinguish, the AFX annunciators. So all I can really do is just roll it back until they extinguish. There they go. Because I can't move these two separately without using the mouse, right? Let's get to where you can see them. I have to use the mouse to move them separately. But I'm holding that button down at the same time. It's not working for me, guys. Okay, power levers to idle, they are, and then you ensure that the AFX on there is extinguished, which it is. Alright, so there's one step we're missing in there. It's not the end of the world. You guys get the gist of it. And then we would release the auto feather switch at this point. Okay, and then the auto feather extinguished light should be off. Wrong one. We need to go down here. And it shows auto feather off, so we need to go over here and let's make sure. Did it stay in the test mode? Lord, no. See, you gotta hold it. That's off. That's arm. So now the light should be off, and it is. Fantastic. Okay, moving on. Vacuum and de-ice pressure. Left bleed air switch needs to be pneumatic and environmental off. That's this one here. So right click, that puts it in the off position. You should see the pneumatic. First we have to observe the pneumatic pressure and vacuum gauges are normal pressure. Okay, so here's the skinny on this, guys. These are over here. They don't change. They're supposed to when you're doing this test. I haven't seen them change. Alright, we should see left and right bleed fail on our warnings down here. Okay, I don't see left and right bleed fail, and I don't recall it being up here. Like this run-up's frustrating, right? Okay, so it's not up here. So I see left bleed air off, but not right. Now I bet if I turn the right switch off, which is what it's telling me to do next, see, this is where this checklist is probably done wrong. So yeah, look, right bleed air off. Not right bleed air fail though. I don't even see a bleed air fail on there. And I know you guys can't make those out. Either way, that's what we're going with, okay? And so now with the right bleed air switch off, those gauges should be at 0. Well, they're not. They're exactly where they were before. Now, is that a problem with the aircraft, or with our aircraft, or is that a problem with the aircraft itself, as in it wasn't properly simulated by MilViz? I don't know. Okay, but they're both illuminated, so then we're going to turn them back on here. So hop back over here. And the left bleed air switch comes on. Now obviously you'd go through all this a lot quicker than we're doing it right now. I just want to make sure you guys understand everything as best as I'm able to explain it. Okay, the pressure is supposed to change on those gauges, but it's not going to, and we've already seen that. But we do want to see on here, so right bleed air fail light is still on, but the left bleed is off, and then the right bleed air switch. At this point now we take this one, left click, turn it on, that turns off the other light, and then that takes us to our engine anti-ice. Alright, so the engine anti-ice actuators need to be in standby. Those are over here by the pilot. Okay, so the anti-ice actuators are these guys. No, not these guys. Come on, brain function. It's the actuators, the bottom two. Left click the bottom two, put them in standby. Engine anti-ice needs to be off. Right now it's on because that was part of our pre-flight. And then we need to observe left and right engine anti-ice lights are extinguished. Well, I don't see them on there. I wasn't looking at them before, to be honest with you. But, so, there's the light, the engine ice fail. I think we're good. I don't see the lights. They're supposed to be extinguished. I don't see them. Alright, engine anti-ice actuators to main. Left click them again. That puts them on main. And then, engine anti-ice on. And then you're supposed to observe the left and right engine anti-ice lights are illuminated. And there they are, they're illuminated. Left and right engine anti-ice. Sweet. Okay, moving on. Engine auto ignition. We're checking. This has to do with ice protection. So power levers are at idle. Engine auto ignition switches need to be armed. That's these two up here. We didn't use them for starting. They're armed now. And then we need to observe that the left and right ignition on switches or on lights are illuminated. Left ignition, right ignition, both illuminated. Fantastic. Power levels advance above 17%, and those should cut out. Alright, so let's hop up to a little higher view. Hold on one sec. It's these two lights we're looking for, right? I don't know why my thing's spinning there. I hope I'm not about to crash. Okay, so we're going to advance above 17% torque, and we're going to watch those two lights go out. Or not. They're still on, aren't they? We're definitely above 17% torque. Yeah, we're at 46. Oh, it's the ignition lights. I was looking at the anti-ice lights. I'm an idiot. There we go, the ignition lights. And they're not even doing it evenly, even though I'm moving them together. It's absolutely ridiculous, okay? Alright, power levers back to idle, and the lights are re-illuminated. Engine auto ignition switches can now go off. Left click, and they're off, and then we want to make sure the lights are off. So back and forth, and the lights are off. Fantastic. Windshield anti-ice coming up next. Let's see, put it on high. So that's normal. Yeah, high is down. So right click to high. And then observe increase on left and right load meters. So the problem is there's no way for me to look at this view and either this or this view at the same time so that I can click those on and observe an increase in the load meters. So it is what it is. Alright, now we're going to turn it off all the way. No, I'm sorry, just to the middle. The middle is off. And we're going to do the automatic prop de-ice on. Right there. And then we're going to supposed to observe the amp meter between 26 and 32 amps. Okay. For some reason it's the de-ice amp meter, I guess. So it's in the, which one is it? It's this one, right? I don't know. My brain's not working on a couple of these things. But you're observing, this is the load, but this should be the amp meter, right? It's the amps. That's the amp meter, amp meter. I don't freaking know. It's one of these. Either way, they're all good. So now we're gonna. So this is why I'm having a problem with this. Okay, so now we're gonna hold the prop de-ice in the manual position. Okay, and this is one I'll be able to do. So we're gonna left click and hold it, and then we're going back up there, and it's supposed to be at 0. Oh, it was this one. So it's at 0. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, so we were good when we weren't holding it, and it went to 0 when we were holding it. So hey, I got that one right finally. Good stuff. Okay, and then the windshield anti-ice can go off. So I know this is taking a long time, guys. I'm just going through it nice and slow for you guys. You can skip ahead on the chapters all you want, okay? Let's see. Automatic prop de-ice needs to go on. I just did that, didn't I? Yeah, sorry. Moving down further. Yeah, automatic prop de-ice off, and then condition levers high idle. Check the pneumatic pressure. It's not going to change, so I'm not going to do it. And then let's move on. Fuel quantity has been checked. Flight and engine instruments. Oh, I just had a hiccup there. Static takeoff power, and then here it says set V1, VR, and V2, but we already set those, and I think it was better that we set them when we did. Alright, so that takes us into our before takeoff final items. Yeah, there's a lot going on, isn't there? Engine auto ignition, arm if required. Well, we're going to arm it, and we're going to say it's required. So you're going to left click both of these. Observe that the lights are illuminated, which they are. Engine anti-ice as required. So it's Arizona. We probably it's May, I think, so we probably won't get a lot of icing. But we can put the prop de-ice on auto, I think is the right thing to do. We don't need brake de-ice or surface de-ice. And we can put windshield anti-ice on normal. We don't need it on high, and I think we're good with ice on that. Exterior lights as required. I'm just going to flip them all on here. Even though I'm not quite pulling on the runway yet, I'm just going to flip them all on, so don't get mad at me, Alex. Strobe lights are on. And let's see, and then it says ice protection, windshield anti-ice, prop de-ice. So windshield anti-ice normal or high, we put it on normal. Prop de-ice auto, and then left and right fuel vent heat needs to be on. That's these two here. Left click both of them. And then stall warning heat needs to be on. That's this one. Left click. And then the pitot heat needs to be on. That's these two here. Left click both of them. And you got to check that the pitot, left and right pitot heat lights are on, which they should be. Right no fuel transfer, left no fuel transfer. I have no idea what that means. Maybe the pitot lights are up top here. I'm sorry. I am wrong. You got to make sure they're extinguished. Don't mind me. I'm an idiot. Moving on. Transponders. Select 1 or 2. So remember, this is our transponder here. We set the TCAS to TARA. Now, we'll select this guy, and then you select 1 or 2. We're just going to stick with 1200, and we're going to turn it on, and we're going to put altitude reporting on. Okay, and then at some point it's going to start telling us to reply, and I haven't figured out how to do that. So there we go. It's on. Prop levers, full forward, which they are already. You can see them right here. Trim, confirmed set. So we're right in the middle. If it's too much, we'll trim it down pretty quick. We should be fine. Flaps are set. Environmental bleed air. If the outside temperature is above 10 degrees Celsius, auto or low, which it is, it's 19 degrees. And if it's below, then it's auto or normal. So we're going to put it on auto. That's the wrong one. I keep clicking that one. So let's turn this down to auto. It'll start making noise here. That's fine. Bleed air valves as required. They're both open, so they're good. ECS mode, that's all this, which is good. The blowers are good. Interior lights are good. Generator load is good. Battery and meter is good. Annunciators off or considered. The only one I'm not sure about is the left no fuel and right no fuel transfer. I'd say I'd look up in the manual what that means, but that's right, you guessed it. There's no frickin' manual. Moving on. That's going to complete our final before takeoff items, which means we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, as far as the takeoff goes, guys, it's going to be a normal takeoff. You're going to hold the brakes, bring the power up. Once the AFX is illuminated, you're going to release the brakes, and then off you go. And then it just tells you, upon reaching VR, rotate to 10 degrees nose up, landing gear, all of that good stuff. There's one last thing, though, that I forgot to show you, and that's setting your altitude. Do it now. It'll save you some trouble. So you just scroll this wheel up, and you can see it's going up 1,000 at a time. If you left-click on the wheel, it goes up 100 at a time. That's how we get to 500, and if you right click, it goes down 100 at a time. So 15,500, we want to make sure yaw damper is on. I'll pop this up for you. Yaw damper's on, pitch and roller on. This thing has nav mode, which it has VNav, nav, heading, approach, all that stuff, flight level change. We're going to use vertical speed, Flight director, we want that on. We're going to use vertical speed and nav mode. We're not going to use the VNav, and we'll use the heading mode only if needed. Make sense to everybody? So yeah, enough is enough. Let's get out of here. Track hour coming on. Little jump there. Make sure I got the right throttle. I don't need any throttle actually. If you just take the brakes off, she starts rolling, and it will start going very, very fast if you don't control it. Now you can control it using beta. That's beta. But you almost need reverse like that, and it's still, without full reverse, it'll get going. So just use your brakes. But the brakes are sensitive on this, so just try to keep it slow, and that'll save you from overheating the brakes. Because see, I'm on the brakes right now, and it's moving. Okay, so that's the way this airplane is. There's enough going on with those props in the full forward position that it doesn't need much to get going at all. And that's why we're going to be holding the brakes for takeoff too. See how fast it's going? I didn't even let off the brakes. I just let off the left brake through the turn. Okay, let's bring her to a stop here. And she'll get squirrely on you on the runway too, so keep that in mind. Okay, so we're going to bring our RPMs up to set static takeoff power. And then we're going to look for the AFX to be illuminated on here, and then from there it's our normal takeoff procedures. Now I'm not going to go full throttle. Number one, I don't need it, and number two, I don't want to stress the engines. Oh, you know what it didn't say? Your fuel mixture should be in full rich right now. I didn't see that on the checklist anywhere. So full rich on that. Let's bring these up to right about there. Waiting for AFX, so they're spooling up right now. And I'm not seeing AFX popping up, so maybe I gotta come up a little higher. There's AFX. Okay, let's let them stabilize for a second so that we have an even takeoff roll, release the brakes, and away we go. And you see she's moving quick. And I don't remember our V speed, so I'll just be looking for them on the tape over there. Maybe. There it is. I was wondering if it was going to come in. I know it was 104 was rotate. Come on, it is squirrely on this runway. So there's V1 is the red line. And then 104, it looks like it's just got some dots there showing us we're rotating through there or something. I don't know. Anyway, coming up on V1. V1 was 99, right? Come on, baby. We're using up this whole runway, aren't we? I'm going to bring in a little more thrust here. There we go. Rotate. And we're airborne. Positive rate of climb. Gear coming up. That was flaps coming up. Gear coming up. I changed my switches. Okay, remember we're vectors until 13 something, which we've already reached. We'll just fly vectors here for a second. You got to watch your trim. It'll go crazy on you. See how that nose is coming way up and the speed's going way down really fast. So you got to really watch it on takeoff. If you climb out too fast, you're going to find yourself in trouble really, really quick. Now remember, there is no auto throttle in this, so I'm going to turn on autopilot right away, just because. So we're going to go nav mode, autopilot, and see how the FMS is blinking there? Alright, it's turning on to the FMS route. And there you can see, if we pop this up for you, we can see the FMS, it's going on to the FMS route here. Okay, now over here it's showing a VOR, right? But we can change that. We can have it, that's an ILS, we can have it on the same thing as this, but it's kind of pointless to me. So I'm going to leave it on that one there, and this one here, and then terrain, put the terrain mode on, and then traffic. I forgot to put that on before we took off. There's traffic right there. So there you go. So terrain here, traffic here. Whew, there's a lot going on with this one, right? Okay. Now you got to watch your speed and your climb, right? So right now she's climbing on her own. If I click vertical speed, it's climbing at 1,700 feet per minute. I'm going to bring that down right now to 1,000, okay? Because I want my speed to come up, all right? I turned my track IR off in case you didn't know. Now, with the terrain mode, it's really hard to see that line there, isn't it? But it is what it is. Okay, so that takes care of, I mean, takeoff is pretty straightforward, right? Flaps are up, all that good stuff. So that would constitute our after takeoff checklist. Flaps up, gear up, all right, and then everything's set. Now what we want to do here in our climb cruise, that's what we're just going to move right into it, and I'll try to remember to put a nice little graphic there to show you and put a chapter in there for climb cruise. Alright, so for the climb checklist, we want to make sure that our bleed air valves are open. Now I went back and listened, that's these two here. I went back and listened to a couple of the video clips, and some of these are a little loud, and I do apologize. The engine sounds so loud to me. So I've kind of been shouting into the microphone a little bit, and I apologize for that because I know it makes the sound a little rough to listen to, but I appreciate you sticking with me on it. So environmental bleed air as required. Yaw dampers on, which it is this one here. That turns it off. I had it on already. My bad. Let's turn yaw. Come on. A little freeze there. Yaw damper on. Autopilot on. There we go. Alright, climb power set. Now I don't have a chart for that. So here again, this is where the manual is incomplete. There should be a chart that tells me what I should set for climb power. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to roll the throttles back just a little bit. That's probably a bit much. And then we are going to adjust our props. Bring them back. There we go. Because we don't want those props cranked all the way up the whole time. So I'm going to bring those back. And I don't have a chart. There's no chart that tells me what I should be setting it at, so we're just going to go with that. And then you got to watch your speed closely, because again, there's no auto throttle, right? So like we rolled that back, we might need to bring those throttles back forward a little bit. But we can bring the throttles forward a little, and we can bring the props back just a hair more, and we're still getting a lot out of them. You can see our speed is still climbing, okay? And all we're doing is we're changing the pitch of those props. Okay. It does say props 1600 RPMs or as desired. So when we go down here, you can see we're right at 1600 RPMs right now. So I'm going to stick with that. I think we're good. Windshield anti-ice normal. Sorry, I know there's a lot of hopping around. Windshield anti-ice is already on normal. Okay, so windshield anti-ice normal. Monitor engine instruments. Cabin signs as required. Check the pressurization, and then lights as required. That takes care of our climb checklist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break away here, and we will come back to take care of the cruise checklist once we get up there, which means, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, tutorial or not, it is time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alrighty, we're having a little bit of fun here. I'm going to show you something in just a sec, but real quick I want to go over the cruise procedures, or cruise checklist if you will. Cruise power is set as desired. I'm good with where it's at. I just left it. Auto feather can go off, which is, you're going to have to hop down here to see it. Auto feather, it's off. We're good on that. ECS mode is required. Engine instruments monitor. Fuel gauges monitor. Cabin pressurization only if we're going to have a change in altitude of 1,000 feet or more. Do we need to mess with it? Okay, fantastic. Now, here's the skinny, folks. I didn't see this before. I don't know if something changed, but all of a sudden it's saying from Quakey to Snobble is 1,242 nautical miles. Well, that's not going to work for us. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go direct to Exudi to do that. So here's our flight plan. Legs page, right? I didn't see that before, but go direct, select Snobble, excuse me, and then execute. Now we're on, I'm sorry, I meant to select Exudi because Snobble for some reason apparently is 1,250 miles away. So let's try that again. Direct to Exudi, which is going to be the start of our approach, execute. Then we need to make sure we're on nav mode here because we're not right now. Nav. There we go, and it's going to bang a left, 278 degrees, and we should be good to go. Alright, so I don't know what happened there. We looked at the plan and it looked good, right? Whatever. Now it's, what's this 1,249 nautical miles, 48, to Exudi? What are you talking about? Is this like picking different waypoints or something? Oh, come on. Okay, let's try something else here. Direct to runway 3. Execute. Yeah, it's picking different waypoints. Where are those waypoints coming from? Okay, let's go to our legs page, our flight plan, legs. Okay, so now it's saying 12. It is not 1,200 miles from. It's not 1,200 miles from Phoenix to frickin' Sedona. Okay, and I know that I have. Oh, I'm dying here, guys. What the heck is going on? We saw it. It was fine. Why is it not working all of a sudden? Like seriously, what is going on here? 1,279 miles? That's ridiculous. Next page. Missed approaches to Mingy. It's the right airport. We took off from Phoenix. This doesn't make any sense. Let's try putting Exudi in there again. I wanted to show you guys a few things about the FMC. Invalid entry. Okay, let's go departure arrival, runway GPS 03. Let's do it at Mingy. Let's see what happens. Legs, Mingy, 1,231 miles. What on earth is going on? We don't have the fuel for that kind of range, first of all. And you can check that. Oh, let's go to index. No, I'm looking for performance, fuel management. We got 1,715 pounds, 2 hours. We got 600 miles worth of fuel. So we'd never make that. So I don't even know what's going on. This doesn't make any sense. Why is it saying it's 1,228 nautical miles? I don't even think we're flying in the right direction, to be honest with you. Okay, well, let's just take a couple of seconds here just to show you guys. So you saw me go to performance. You can choose fuel management here, VNAV setup here, transition altitude, target speed, all of that stuff in here. All right. And if you want to go direct, you select here, choose the waypoint you want to go direct to. Like if we want to go direct to Mingy, which is what it should be doing anyway, execute that. And so it should be going direct to Mingy, but I'm telling you right now, it's not 1,200 miles away. I don't know what the problem is here. there should be a way to find your current position, right? Not position initialization, GNSS position. So this says we're at 31, north 31-0, west 87. Now let me look over here real quick. See if I can find that on here. No, I don't have anything on here that's showing my... Let me try my map here. That's frustrating. Yeah, I mean, we're not even close to heading in the right direction. I can tell you that right now. So, let's flip our heading here. Let's go to heading hold. There we go. And we need to be going probably about 30 or 40 degrees. Unbelievable. What is going on here? I think I know why it's doing that. Because we're headed in the wrong direction. I'll bet you that's what it is. But why is it showing it that way? That's not where it's at. It's not even close to where it's at. Let me show you guys on the map here. Here's where we are. Here's where Sedona is. What on earth? So you can see there's Quakey, there's Snobble, there's Cardle, right? But it's not, but it's saying it, oh. Okay, if you're going the wrong way, it shouldn't just change it and say, oh yeah, you've got, 10 days until you get there, right? We need to turn even more. Unbelievable. I have to use a map to figure out, now, there's a way to do it, you guys. There's a way to figure out where you're at, but we don't have proper visual aids in this simulator because we don't have proper ground terrain. Yeah, it's just... okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn a little further, closer to east. I'm going to see if I can actually get on our track like we're supposed to be. Okay? And then we'll see if things work out from there. That's freaking ridiculous, right? Okay, anyway, anything else? Index, you've got your MCDU menu, status page, position initials, all that stuff is in here. There's 3 pages of it. Route menu, database, IRS control, maybe it's enabled. It's clearly not working properly, but you guys get the gist of it. So I just wanted to really briefly show you a few of these things and hopefully get our flight back on track. So I'll see you guys back here once we're on the descent and getting close to the approach. Sound good? Sounds good to me. Alright folks, so we're hand flying the approach here because our freaking GPS won't work at all. We're a little high, just a little. And we need to get our speed down quite a bit too, so we're definitely too fast. But real quick, going over our landing checklist. Flaps are set. Airspeed, we need to bring it down obviously. And yaw dampers, it says off, which they are. And then I'm trying to look at this. Trying to look at this while flying here. Probably not the best thing to do. Yeah, we're getting too low there. Alright. Throttles, it just says set. Oh, come on. This is a very, very hard landing here. Let me sit up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So throttles are good. Pitch, prop pitch all the way forward. Come on. Whoa. Oh, what just happened? We just hit like a downdraft there. There we go. Okay. And we're going to do full reverse on landing. And that's it. Flaps are set. Gear is down and locked. Come on.
100.
She's just dropping. Now she's climbing. Come on, baby. Oh, come on. This is going to be a terrible landing. Come on. I am just fighting with this thing. Come on. Ooh, my yoke sucks. That's from my yoke right there. Because my yoke is just garbage. The new one will be here today. Come on, get down on the ground. Get down, get down, get down. There we go. Oh, that was a terrible landing. Full brakes, full reverse. Absolutely atrocious landing there. No doubt about that. That was horrible. Woo. Oh, that was a horrible landing, you guys. This thing, I'm not gonna lie, this thing is really, really tough to fly. it shouldn't be, I don't think it's supposed to be that hard to fly. I really don't. I've flown the King Air 200 and never struggled like this. I'm trying to get it off the runway. I mean, with no thrust at all, it taxis like freaking supersonic speed. It's ridiculous. Not the best landing checklist, and certainly not the best landing. So real quick, I just want to go over it again. You want to make sure your flaps are set to full. Alright, my landing rate wasn't bad. It just landed halfway down the runway. Flaps are set to full. Alright, you're supposed to be on your VREF airspeed. We don't know what that is, but I can promise you it should have been probably a little slower than what we were doing. Alright, your gears down and locked, your yaw dampers off, condition levers in high idle. Alright, that's your fuel. And then your prop levers full forward. Okay, and then after touchdown, obviously, or on the flare, you pull the throttles all the way to 0. Let me track IR off here. Pull the throttles all the way to 0, and then to reverse. I got stuff falling in my office here now. That was an atrocious landing. It really was. I'm a little embarrassed by it, but you know what? This is a tough airport to land at anyway. Now, couple complaints here about the approach as far as this goes. Not having charts, not okay. Okay, the FMS deciding that all the waypoints that are 80 miles away, or they're not, it's not, I don't even think it's 80 miles. All the waypoints for Sedona all of a sudden 1,200 miles away, and they're all in frickin', I mean, California is not 1,200 miles away from here. Where in the heck did this thing think it was going to go? I mean, that's just absolute trash. And then I get it up here. I can't fly the approach properly, which really sucks. I didn't even bother to brief it. Why bother to brief it if you can't fly the stupid thing? I need track IR back on, right? So I get it up here, and then I get it set up for the approach, and then it just, you saw, just fighting. You know, I'm sure a lot of that was me. I haven't flown it very much, so a lot of that was no doubt me. I'm holding the brakes here. There's just no reason it should be trying to go this fast. That airplane is parked way too far forward. Maybe if I pull the prop levers all the way back? Nope, she still wants to taxi at freaking V2. Unbelievable. There are issues with this thing. It's a beautiful airplane, and what the heck is it doing? Seriously? 5 frames a second? My PC is just trash now, guys. It's not doing good. Track IR coming off. Park and brake coming on. Oh, I'm frustrated. I really am. I'm frustrated with this airplane. I'm frustrated with, after 5 years of development, 5 freaking years of development, and you can't get this stuff right. That is not a problem that should exist. It absolutely is not a problem that should exist. So I'm a little upset about that. But anyway, all right, let's talk about shutdown and securing of the aircraft. Probably one of the easiest things that you'll do. So the parking brake is set. Avionics master switch needs to go off, and I'll hop down here so you can see it clearly. Here's your avionics master. Left click it, it goes off. The ESIS power goes off as well. Oh, excuse me, that's this one here. Right click that one to turn it off. Auto feather needs to be off. There we go. And yeah, that's off right there. Exterior lights all need to be off, obviously. Should turn those off when I landed. That one still needs to be on along with the beacon for now. ECS mode off, so that's our environmental control over here. So you just turn that to the off position. I don't know why we haven't shut the engines off yet. Cabin auto blower goes to auto, which it already is. Oxygen controls go off. I would think that like we would have shut it down already, but I guess not. Batteries charged, interior master switch off, that's up top here. There we go. ITT is stabilized, it is. Instrument emergency lights on if desired, we don't need them. Condition levers now go to fuel cutoff. Whew, there we go. Prop levers go to feather. They already are. I tried to feather them to see if it would keep me from taxiing at Mach 2. Overhead panel switches off, so anything that's on up here can go off now. Maybe off. That's good. Off. That's already off. Cabin entry lights as required. Once the N1 is below 15%, battery and generator switches go off. That's down here. So right click, or left click. Right click, and left click. There's no control locks to install. And everything else is stuff that, other than taking the parking brake off, but that's only if you put the chocks in. So that is going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, what an atrocious landing. But you know what? That's life sometimes, right? I can't get them perfect every time. With my yoke acting up, it definitely made it a lot harder. It doesn't like to pull up. That's why I had to order a new one, which hopefully should be here soon. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking, well, why didn't you wait for the new yoke before making this tutorial? Well, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as I could. And so I decided to go ahead and press on with it, and I paid for it with having an atrocious landing. I thought about taking it out of the video and redoing it, but, you know, the truth is, you know, everybody has that sometimes. We didn't crash. We just had a really, really ugly landing. And I think it's good for you guys to see that, you know, everybody has struggles sometimes. That's just part of flight simulation. So just recapping real quick, though, I just want to say, you know, the aircraft looks absolutely beautiful. It flies halfway decent. You know, most of the issues as far as flying are either me or the yoke. I'm sure of it. It actually flies really good. However, the absolute lack of any type of real manual is, in my opinion, atrocious. Absolutely pathetic is probably a better word. It's pathetic that there's no real manual for this aircraft. I think that that is ridiculous. I can't believe they didn't release an actual manual with this aircraft. Now, if there's something out there, or they did, and I just am not finding it, if there's something I'm missing, then let me apologize up front and somebody point me in the right direction. Because, boy, I'll tell you what, I've had to fight my way through this, and it's ridiculous. And stupid little things like, you know, all you do is hit the enter key to make this work. You know, well, how would you know that? I just happen to try it. I've never used the enter key to interact with an aircraft in flight simulation at all. But I just happened to try it. You notice we didn't use the checklists that were on the MFD the whole time. That's all right. Didn't want to, but you're certainly more than welcome to. Integration of the charts, really easy once you know how to do it. The fact that the FMS, for whatever reason, decided that my waypoints were suddenly more than 1,200 miles away, unbelievable. Now I know somebody's going to say, well, that must be a corrupt install or something. Okay. If that's what corrupted when I installed it, that it shows everything perfect and the flight plan is all good until after you take off, and then all of a sudden it's not, well, that's not a corrupt install. That's corrupt coding somewhere. That's a problem. You know, and hopefully nobody else runs into that. Hopefully that's just me. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for this, folks. Look for the chapters down below. Obviously, by the time you get to this point, you'll already know about that. Don't beat me up too bad for the landing. It was really ugly. I was playing around with it yesterday and showing some guys on Discord. You should have seen what I did in Miami landing in a hurricane. The guys were actually yelling at me, you got to go around, you got to go around. And I was like, nah, I'm going to land it. So it was actually far worse than what I just did here. But having a stable approach really is going to be key on this aircraft, and I did not have a very stable approach. So make sure you have a really stable approach when you're coming in for your landing. It's going to make life a lot easier for you. I never put the flaps up, I just noticed. And I think that's it. I think I've done all my complaining. Now, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Feel free to ask any questions down in the comments section. If I know the answer, I'll get it to you. If I can find the answer, I'll get it to you. You know, leave any comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and give that subscribe button a smash. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Now, if you're going to leave nasty comments down there, I'm just going to delete them. Don't be a jerk. If you have something negative to say, that's fine. Just be nice about it. Don't be a jerk about it. And I'd be more than happy to address it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys have a great time. As always, keep the blue side up unless otherwise instructed by ATC. Y'all have a fantastic day.